Bears lose their 14th straight, Cubs miss out on playoffs, and Connor Bedard makes his highly anticipated preseason debut. We are Chicago Brute Sports, a podcast
for the fans, by the fans.
My name is Andrew, this is Joe, and of course this is Brandon, a.k.a. B.O.B. Before we get started today, we would like to dedicate this podcast to the Marines, a part of 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines.
Amen.
Fox Company over in 29 Palms. Thank you to all who serve, and thank you, Jimmy and Nick, especially for your continuous support.
Love you,
really
Jimmy.
Appreciate you guys. Nick and Jimmy, thank you very much, boys.
Absolutely.
And how was your guys' weekend?
It was good.
Yeah.
Went to Vegas, got back from Vegas. I think on the last podcast, I told you I was 2 days before I was going to Vegas.
Yeah.
So yeah, Vegas was it was fun, but not for me.
So obviously, Vegas, you probably have some crazy story because it's Vegas, right?
You would think, man.
I do and crazy gambling stories.
So
or is it one of those what happens in Vegas?
Yeah,
stays in Vegas?
Nothing like that. So there was one, like we were walking the strip, me, Grace, and my buddy Matt, another Marine. Shout out to Matt Gibadowski.
Shout out to Matt.
That this dude was eating out of the garbage, this homeless guy. There's a lot of homeless people in Vegas. It reminded me kind of like
sad, right?
Just like the city,
Sad.
It is sad. Of course, it's absolutely sad. You wish you could do something.
All
about
populated areas these days.
But he was eating out of the garbage, and it kind of scared some people. Because, obviously it's not normal to eat out of the garbage. He's just hungry. You feel bad for the guy. And some lady was walking down the, on the crosswalk, and after he was done, he started walking on the crosswalk and started, beating himself in the head. And this lady got scared and ran away from it. But
you see some
minus that crazy.
Yeah,
thing that I
you
saw.
definitely see some messed up things in Vegas. I've been there a couple times.
Oh yeah.
You see all walks of life in Vegas.
That's what makes it fun.
If you haven't been there, it's a very exciting
Yeah.
place. It's definitely
Vegas is Vegas.
Overall, it was a good time though.
Yeah, it was. It was fun. The wedding was probably the best part. We stayed at the Cosmopolitan, and just really cool place. We were at the pool level, so the wedding was at the pool level, which was like doesn't really matter, but like the 4th floor. So you kind of saw the strip off in the background as there was a DJ, music. You got the pool in the back, and a lot of dancing. We smoked some stogies. We smoked some Fat Bottom Betties that I bought for everyone. It cost me $200, but hey, it was for 5 cigars.
Hey, so Joe, question for you. On the Vegas topic, did you see the Sphere or the Sphere?
We did.
Whatever?
We saw the Sphere. We didn't
Sphere,
physically go to it. They had that concert, the Y2U2, I think it was, or whatever, some big time concert there, and they also had the Chainsmokers playing. So there was a lot of cool concerts going there. Dude, Vegas
That's
is
very cool. Yeah.
So they say New York City is the city that never sleeps, but man, I really think it's Vegas. Vegas is considered the city of lights. Chicago, the Windy City, baby. Shout out to Chicago. You got New York, that's the city that never sleeps, and Los Angeles, which is the city of angels.
Happy to hear you had a good time in Vegas, man. But we have a lot to
let's
talk
get into
about
it, man.
today, boys. A lot.
A lot to discuss.
Absolutely. Your week's been good though?
Yeah, week's been good. Same old.
You been hitting the gym or what, dude?
Yeah, I've been hitting
Crazy
the gym. I've been
Eights.
trying.
Tell them a little bit about Crazy Eights.
Oh
Crazy
yeah,
Eights, yeah.
Crazy.
So
I told you about that.
Joe worked out with my brother Brandon over here a couple months back, and he showed him a workout called Crazy Eights, where you just you do 7 reps with the easy bar curl.
It should be 8.
8 reps.
Full disclosure, we did 7.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No.
I couldn't remember the number.
Those
dude.
are Crazy Sevens.
So
Crazy sevens.
we did the Crazy Sevens
Now I
instead of
know.
the Crazy Eights. But anyways, the easy bar you constantly add 5 pounds after every 7th rep, and you go all the way up and back down the same way.
Try to get to 8. 8 sets.
Yeah.
But it never happens. Yeah, it does happen, but it's hard. It's challenging.
It's definitely hard. By the time I was done, my arms literally felt like they were going to explode.
I think last time I did it
was
with
pretty bad,
Brandon, I got to 5 sets with the
yeah, we got up to
5 pounds on each
20,
side.
20 on each or 25. I can't remember.
So
either way, it's a fucking.
we got to
muscle buster.
And
That's
either way, it's not fun.
So we got to
Brandon, how was your week?
75 pounds. We got to 75 pounds.
Either way, How was your week, Brandon?
My week was fantastic. Action-packed weekend. Watching football. Always preparing for the podcast these days. Putting in a lot of extra effort.
For sure.
Finally got my engagement photos back.
Oh yeah.
So that's awesome.
I'm sure we would all appreciate seeing them at some point.
At some point, we all will, absolutely. But yeah, that was exciting. Huge haul. Shout out to Emma, our photographer. She's fucking awesome. So, but no, it's a good weekend, man. But I'm pumped up for this pod. I'm ready to get into sports.
Yeah.
Like you said, we got young Bedard. A lot to talk about with the Bears. Let's do it.
I want to say something real quick. This is kind of going to be a special one, like a two-part. So we will just talk about baseball, and then we will talk about a little bit about the Bears, the playoffs, and then we'll cut it short. Then we'll repost another video. So we're going to upload 2 videos tomorrow, Thursday, sometime in the afternoon. The second part is going to be a Zoom with Tony. Got back to me. He says he wants to join later. After we're done talking about our stuff, we'll save the Blackhawks stuff. Tony, I would consider as an expert at hockey, like Andrew and Brandon are pretty good at baseball. I'm pretty solid at football. Andrew probably should be hired by WGN, some news casting crew. I mean, he's that
big
good.
Big shoes to fill after that, Joe.
I wouldn't be surprised though if like a news anchor or whatever calls up Andrew and says, "Hey, we want you to be part of our sports team and be a sports journalist." I would not be surprised.
Yeah,
Andrew should be hired as one.
I gotta debate Dan Orlovsky one of these days.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Hey, the doppelganger over here.
Yeah.
We will talk about the baseball and we will talk about football on this section. Then we'll upload a separate video talking about hockey. It'll probably be about 20-30 minutes long. So we will get the Blackhawks in there for you Blackhawks fans. Like I said, man, we cover all Chicago sports. That's our goal here. So, all right, that's all I had to say.
So yeah, we have a very special guest and coming on later to talk about the state of the Blackhawks, answer must-know questions. So obviously, stay tuned for that. Some good stuff coming up. But Joe, do you want to start off with the Bears? Brandon, you guys want to get right into it, or?
I think we can get right into it. I think we've been for the most part, I feel, starting with the Bears, and I think this week we should stay consistent here. I think there's a lot to discuss regarding the Bears, so let's take care of it.
Yeah. So if you want to start off with football, I can go with football. So one of the things that I thought was really interesting, and I really think that should be done, is Sean Payton said that a lottery system for draft picks due to the team purposely tanking for players like Caleb Williams. So what he means by that is that how a lottery system works is that you randomly get a number in the draft each year, like for a first round, second round. It'll probably be it would have to be, I would assume, like the first 3 rounds. It's a lottery system. So teams don't purposely tank to try and get a good prospect, college prospect.
Well, that's what happened in baseball as well. Remember
good, and I think it should happen because I think that teams will be more competitive and they'll actually start trying.
Can we wait a couple years though, Joe? I'm down for.
Well, it would have to be. It would have to be. It couldn't be this year.
I know. I'm just saying.
So it would have to be where whatever teams gave up their draft picks. It would, in all fairness, it would have to be. It would have to be after whatever teams gave up their draft picks. So let's say whatever team gave up 3 first-round picks for whatever consecutive years. It would have to be after that, and then you started that year.
And quite frankly, I think
that would be fair.
I
That's
think
how you would have
the
to
draft lottery is a very important thing for sports in general because it keeps the team competitive because you don't have a clear or concise shot at the number 1 pick. Remember the Houston Astros back in the early 2010s and stuff like that?
Sure.
How they had 5 first overall picks, back to back years. And of course, if you have that many first overall picks, they're going to turn into studs like that. So I think it's good for the league because it keeps teams wanting to be competitive and they don't have a clear, path to the number 1 seed.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So
it's very good.
So why wouldn't you want to try then at that point? I mean, I get the whole point of it makes sense. So I mean, why wouldn't you? If your team's not playing good, they're not good. You got no talent on your team. Why wouldn't you want to tank to get a better talent on your team? It all makes sense. Why are you going to try to be competitive?
Well, I mean, but there's an issue with that. Because
That's what
a
I'm saying,
professional team, you know, your goal is not to lose. Your goal is to win. And even if, like, you know, losing and getting the top picks is going to help you later on down the road, like, also think about the fans' perspective. Like, you know, as Bears fans, Soldier Field's a very expensive stadium to go watch a football game. Are we going to continue to pay, you know,
we shouldn't be
a high dollar amount for tickets to watch the Bears suck week in and week out? Like, no.
That's also the thing too. People are like wanting the Bears to tank because cheap.
Yeah.
Tickets are cheap, so it's cheaper to go to the games. But it's like, no, don't even go to the games. Don't support that. I mean, make them hurt where it hurts them the most, which is the pockets.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, you know what? You can blame the Bears fans too. I'm sorry to say.
Well,
You can blame
yes,
us
100%.
because at the end of the
100%,
day,
Brandon,
it doesn't
100%.
matter. It doesn't matter what the Bears do. The fans are going to show up. The fans are going to pay
That's
money
because
to go.
Chicago's the most loyal.
And
fans.
that's great, and we are loyal, but that doesn't incentivize what we're arguing.
I agree
you
100%
know,
with you,
unless you
Brandon.
do some sort of boycott or some shit, you know.
Yeah.
But I think everything you guys are saying is 100% right. I think, you know, especially when it comes to professional sports, one big argument people have against it is that in college, right? I know a lot of people that prefer college over professional. Is that these college players, they have something to play for, right? Because these professionals, they sign these contracts. A lot of times this money's guaranteed. So at this point, it's like they can kind of take their foot off the gas. And I get it. So what you guys are saying makes perfect sense. It absolutely defends that. But what I will say is that we're Bears fans. I want to be selfish right now. The Bears, unfortunately, may not be good for another year or so. So absolutely, like you said, Joe, let's give it a couple years before we take in that lottery, because
It's gonna have
the Bears might have a couple first rounders in
But
our
I think
future.
that it really should happen. Sean Payton, debatably one of the greatest coaches ever, has said it. I mean, I know he's not having a very great year this year. I mean, the offense looks good, and I think he's an offensive-minded guy. At the Broncos, the problem with the Broncos is the defense, obviously.
And Russell Wilson's not that good, let's be honest.
Russell Wilson's he's solid, man. He's just old. He's not like in his prime anymore. But Russell Wilson's a solid QB, man. You can't deny that.
Hey, Broncos country. Let's ride.
Any
Broncos country.
He was the first
We
rookie.
tried.
He was the first rookie quarterback ever to win a
Broncos
Super
country.
Bowl.
We died.
So
Literally.
I think he's the only one that holds that title too. So I mean, you can't suck and have a Super Bowl ring. Russell Wilson's a solid quarterback.
You know, that's a whole nother debate that we can
It
get
is,
into for
yeah,
a while,
no.
but I believe that championship team was carried by the Legion of Boom, the defense.
I also think they had Marshawn Lynch.
Yeah. They
Still
had
had
a
Tyler
lot
Lockett.
of good things going for them. Russell Wilson had a lot of weapons on that team.
Yeah, for sure. No, I don't disagree. I think we talked about this before, Andrew, a little bit about players getting these huge contracts. I don't know the exact money amount that Russell Wilson got. I know it was
it's massive. It was a massive
over
contract.
hundreds of millions of dollars. And
Huge.
I know that
I
the funny
bring
thing
it up.
that the last Broncos coach got fired, and he said, well, you know, when your team loses more games than the bathrooms they have in their house, you know, it's concerning.
So I have a question for you guys. Actually, go ahead, Andrew. I know you were. Since we're on the topic of Wilson.
Okay, so just real quick, Russell Wilson signed a 7-year contract worth a total of $296 million.
That's crazy.
That comes out to a whopping $49 million per year.
That's more than Aaron Rodgers makes, and I think Aaron
That
Rodgers
is
a better
ridiculous.
quarterback.
But go ahead, Brandon.
Well, it's a little off topic. It's still football related.
Sure.
But I want both your guys' opinion on
Sure.
this. I think this is a fun breakdown. So, not sure if you guys are specifically aware of this. The Baltimore Ravens this week, week 4, played the Cleveland Browns, and Deshaun Watson didn't start this week. Apparently, Deshaun Watson had a little bit of fluid in his shoulder. Inflammation. He couldn't really partake in practice all week long. And that, what eventually ended up happening was he got cleared to play. Deshaun Watson cleared to play. Coach was fine with it. Why wouldn't he be? Deshaun Watson took the liberty himself to say, "I'm not playing this week, Coach," and he didn't.
Yeah.
Obviously, Deshaun Watson's reasoning, right, is the fact that even though I was cleared, I don't feel 100%. I'd rather not tax my body this week. Therefore, let's have our backup go in. We all know what happened, right? Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens absolutely destroyed the Browns. It wasn't even competitive. That's a divisional matchup, don't forget.
Yeah.
So I want to ask the two of you, starting with Andrew, and then we'll go left to right.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Do you feel strongly against what Deshaun Watson did? Do you feel like it's justified at the end of the day? It's how he feels. What do you think?
So, of course, we need to address the big elephant in the room here. Deshaun Watson. The Browns signed him to a massive contract, just like Russell Wilson with Denver. Right. So if you're paying a quarterback that much, you want to see them play, But for this situation, I kind of sort of lean with agreeing with Watson on this.
Okay.
And I say that because even though it's a matchup with the Baltimore Ravens, an important matchup, the Browns don't look that bad this year. They don't look terrible this year. And if I'm wrong, someone can correct me. I would rather have Deshaun Watson be at 100% health and not risk another injury to Deshaun Watson rather than throwing him out there against already a good team like the Ravens and getting pummeled. I don't know. The quarterback is your best weapon. Without a quarterback, a healthy quarterback, you're not going anywhere. It's as simple as that. So if Watson goes down with an injury or his shoulder it gets worse, the entire season will be done at that point. So I, for one, I think it's kind of messed up that he didn't play, but I kind of, sort of, actually see his point there.
So,
Fair enough. Joe?
No, Brandon, that's a great question. I don't think it was too off topic about what we're talking about with these big contracts. I think that the reason why football is probably it's not a very safe sport. And the reason why you make so much money like you do is because it's not a very safe sport. There's players that play with injuries all the time. Deshaun Watson is making, I think his contract also was over like $100 million. If you're making that much money, man, I'll go out there and play with a chopped off arm for $100 million. And you can't play with a little bit of inflammation in your arm. Dude, there's people that play all the time that have injuries. Even Aaron Rodgers said he played with a broken thumb throughout Green Bay the whole time. That's what separates like the elite tough players from the non-elite tough players. And I think if you're making that much money and you should go out there and perform, man. And your players respect you. Even Aaron Rodgers said that your players will respect you more if you go out there and play with an injury. Unless it's like a torn ACL, like an injury that you obviously can't play with, or like something very serious. But some inflammation in your shoulder, if you're cleared by the doctor, you're making the most money out of anyone on the team, dude, go out there and play the freaking game. Go out there and your team will respect you. By doing this, dude, I think this is kind of like a similar situation with Antonio Brown. I'm not getting passed enough, I got an injury. And when he was cleared that one game, he took his freaking jersey off, he took his whatever he got, like just down to his t-shirt and pants, and he was doing his weird clap thing off the field and ran off. Yeah. Went and slept with that OnlyFans model, whatever the heck he was doing. Like, dude, be with your team, man. You're making all this money. Deshaun Watson, what the heck, man? Come on, dude.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Browns. Talk about also having very loyal fans. How bad were the Cleveland Browns? They've been bad forever too. They also don't have a Super Bowl ring. At least the Bears have a Super Bowl ring. But talk about some of the most loyal fans to the team. And also a team that's never really had a quarterback either. And that's paying Deshaun Watson all this money, and you can't go out there and play because of some inflammation in your arm. Give me a break. That's what I have to say.
I'll answer my own question. I have a couple thoughts on what you guys said. I think, Joe, first of all, I have to side with Joe. First and foremost, I understand your point. I do. I get it. But at the end of the day, I agree with Joe. And I'll use Joe Burrow as an example, right? Joe Burrow has been battling that calf injury all season long. Obviously, the Cincinnati Bengals through 4 weeks are in absolute turmoil. I don't even think the Cincinnati, and don't quote me on this, I'm pretty sure it's accurate. I think through the first 4 weeks, Cincinnati sitting currently at 1-3. They haven't scored a single touchdown in the first in the first half of each game.
Well, Chase doesn't even have a
Right,
touchdown in the
right.
season.
So they're struggling.
Yeah, they're leading wide receiver.
But what I'm trying to say is that Joe Burrow, at the end of the day, even at 1-3, even without scoring these touchdowns in the first half, Joe Burrow being on the field gives Cincinnati a better chance at winning the game. Even an injured Joe Burrow, that's just a fact.
Your players respect you because there's a
And
lot
your
of
players respect you.
There's a lot
So-
of players that are making a lot less money on the
Yeah.
team, rookies too, that are trying to make a name for themselves, and they're playing through injuries. A lot of them are.
Brandon, please finish your thought.
No, it's okay. But no, that's my point though. I think Joe Burrow is a good example of how I feel about Watson. I think in that divisional matchup against the Baltimore Ravens, both teams have decent records. Imagine Cleveland wins this game. That's going to be a huge shift down the line come week 16, 17, 18. I think Deshaun Watson should have played. I think, he gets paid a lot of money. If he was cleared by the doctors, I don't think there's an excuse. Even if you got to change your game plan, even if you got to play a little bit more checkdowns, even if you can't throw the ball fucking 60 yards down the field and complete a pass to Amari Cooper, whatever the case is, change your game plan. But Deshaun Watson gives you the best chance to win the game. Get your ass on the field if you're healthy and you're clear to play, and that's it.
I totally see your guys' point here. I'm not trying to really debate this, but don't you just think that if Joe
That's
Burrow
fucking terrible. I'm sorry.
If Joe Burrow is dealing with some major calf issues,
Yeah.
why would you not want him to rest up, especially early on in the season where you might be able to afford to lose a game here and there,
It's a
and
pride.
get Joe Burrow healthy as can be, and then send him back out there? I think the Bengals have a good enough team as it is to where they could, squeak a couple games here and there. Remember, Jimmy Garoppolo and the Tom Brady thing. What happened? A backup in Jimmy Garoppolo came in and started off the season 4-0 for the Patriots because Tom Brady was hurt and he couldn't play.
Yeah.
And then Tom Brady came back ultimately, and he was fully healthy, and then they went on to do Patriot things like win the Super Bowl. I just think prioritizing your quarterback's health is extremely important today because you see teams all the time, good teams without a quarterback, and they don't amount to anything because of that reason. That's just my thought, but I do see your guys' point. I think that is a good question.
I get what you're saying. You have to protect your biggest asset. Your quarterback is your biggest asset, and but I think a lot of it has to do with that tough mentality, pride, and a lot of those quarterbacks they're the leaders of the team. They're controlling the entire offense, and they have to have a leader out there. So I think it's more of a pride thing too, and your team respects you. If it's an injury that you can play through, then go out there and play. If it's an injury that you can't play through, I think obviously get rest and heal up and get better. But I mean, like to add to your point too, but also if it's if your team's going nowhere, you might as well sit your quarterback and protect him. I mean, I don't know. The Bengals were projected one of the teams to be a Super Bowl contender, and it's not looking very likely right now. So
it's a little bit hard to gauge. I get what you're saying, Andrew, but you're assuming the worst in this situation. The reason I say that is because if these players are cleared to play, trust me, these trainers realize how violent of a sport this is. They would never clear a player to play if they weren't going to be able to, play at least enough to put the team in a position to win the game.
Question.
You get what I'm saying?
I do get what you're saying. Question. What happened with Tua last season? Should he have been cleared after his first brain issue?
Well,
He was cleared, but when he should not have been cleared.
But it's not about him not having been cleared. You're expecting the training staff or the doctors of Miami to predict that there's going to be another situation where he gets a concussion. Quarterbacks go entire seasons probably without getting checked in the blue tent one time for a concussion. So, you can't predict when a concussion is going to happen. You can't predict a single individual play, dude's going to smash his head on the ground. So that's where I disagree. I think the training staff's job is to say, hey, this player has 4 limbs, he can think straight, he can move good enough at least 75% to put our team in a position to win, and that's it.
So, a very good point. I'm just gonna obviously throw out the obvious here. Let's just go with that shoulder injury was his throwing arm, right?
I don't know.
Well, let's just say it was his throwing arm.
that's a good question, actually.
That is a good question.
The quarterback gets hit throughout the entire game, right? So the quarterback's always under high-pressure situations. So if Deshaun Watson is, as it is, dealing with a hurt shoulder, how often do quarterbacks get sacked and fall on their shoulder?
Yeah, it is.
And pretty often.
His right shoulder.
And pretty often.
I'm assuming that's his
So, I don't hate the Browns or Watson's idea or choice of sitting. I truly don't. But at the same time, I do see both their points. He's getting paid way too much money to sit down. So, how about we just let you guys and answer this for us and let us know in the comments what you guys think. We would really appreciate it.
Yeah, please comment. Yeah. Thank you.
Because I personally want to see if anyone else agrees with me.
I think that's he's right-handed, so it's his right throwing arm. Yep.
I mean, and that does change things. It is his right shoulder, his throwing arm.
All right, let's move on more to the Bears
stuff. But that was some good stuff.
So I thought this was an interesting thing that right now I heard on Chat Sports that they're talking about trading Justin Fields to the Atlanta Falcons. So if we do trade him, I know he had a really great game. He threw for over 300 passing yards against the Broncos. But if we do trade Deshaun Watson, we were just talking about Deshaun Watson, but if we do trade Justin Fields to the Atlanta Falcons, what can we get for Justin Fields? Not saying that we will trade him. I mean, if he pans out at the end of this year and he looks like he's our quarterback, then yeah, obviously, let's not trade him. But we have to remember, the Denver Broncos have probably one of the worst defenses in the NFL. I mean, we saw what the Dolphins did to them, and that wasn't very good. And I think that if we do trade Justin Fields, I hope he works out, man. I'm not like a believer, but I mean, I really don't want to start fresh if we do draft Caleb Williams. But what can we get for Justin Fields? I mean, after that game, it looks like his trade value went up a little bit. But I think that we can get at least a third-round draft pick for Justin Fields from Atlanta. And I really think that it's worth it. I do. What are your guys' thoughts? A third round and maybe something else.
Opinion?
Yeah, I do. Oh, of course, I got big opinions, man. And I said it last week on the podcast. I'm not a true believer in Justin Fields, right? The kid obviously has his flaws. But to answer your question, Joe, I think that Justin Fields could be productive on another team. I think Justin Fields, if he took on the role of Brock Purdy, where you have all this talent around you and you don't have to be the guy even in the position, I think Justin Fields would be great. Phenomenal, actually. I think with his runability and taking the pressure off of him and being able to have a little bit more confidence behind his throws, I think Fields can be successful elsewhere. In terms of trade value, that's a tough one. I think that if a team is going to take a gamble on Justin Fields just because of the nature of the sport, the nature of what have you done lately for us, I think teams are going to try to buy low on him. I don't think any team is going to be crazy enough to say what I just said. No team is going to justify the fact that Fields could be good on another team. They're going to exploit his issues that he's had with the Bears over the last 3 years. So in the long term, I don't think Fields is going to really generate a lot of trade value. I think a third rounder sounds pretty accurate. I think maybe we can score a veteran, if we want to try to shore up our line.
Maybe.
Desmond Ritter, their quarterback.
Falcons quarterback.
Well, if we get Caleb Williams, let me deflect the question back to you, Joe.
Sure.
Because I think we're in agreement. We have an agreement that Fields would foster, maybe a third round pick. Who's to say we don't keep a guy like Fields as a backup?
That's what I was low-key thinking, and I didn't say anything. I think, honestly, Justin Fields has a lot of value as a backup quarterback. I think that'd be a pretty solid backup, as a matter of fact. I didn't have a chance to turn that around. talk that route, so I didn't say it, but I do agree with
So,
you.
Andrew, the next question is, what's more valuable, a third-round draft pick or a backup
Well,
quarterback?
who's to say we get a third round?
Well, I'm
Because,
saying, so
yeah.
Atlanta Falcons say, hey,
Yeah.
we will give you Desmond Ridder and a third-round draft pick for Justin Fields. Because everyone's saying that Justin Fields on the Atlanta Falcons would be, like, unstoppable. Okay. Maybe. No one really knows, but... Okay, so let's say that we do that. Like, that's what they offer you.
So
right
we
now.
would get their quarterback and a third round.
Yes.
For Justin Fields.
That's
Desmond
enticing
Ridder
because we're
and a
getting a
quarterback.
quarterback.
Yes, if they include the quarterback, then yes, I will
Okay.
100% take that deal. But
Yeah.
if it's just the third round,
Just a third round?
I would be a little wary on accepting that deal because,
Yeah.
like Brandon said over here, B.O.B, I do think Fields would be a very good backup quarterback for a team of value. So
No, I don't think. I think the issue with that. Now, I will say, talent-wise, yes, I think Fields would be a very good backup quarterback. But the way that the dynamic of a football team these days, all the backup quarterbacks are veterans. There's a reason for that, because you got the young players actually starting. You got these veterans who are kind of taking them, walking them, talking them through the motions. So, honestly, yes, from a talent perspective, I agree with Fields being the backup. From the perspective of, hey, we're going to have quote-unquote Caleb Williams as a rookie, you really put a lot of faith in Justin Fields, like, mentoring him. From that perspective, I have an issue.
from that perspective, no, but that's why you have coaching, and that's why,
I agree.
yeah.
That's why you should have a quarterback coach.
yeah.
I agree with that.
That's why your quarterback coach comes into play there. But that kind of situation is kind of like what happened to the Jets this year with Rodgers and Zach Wilson. Obviously, the quarterback from Atlanta was nowhere near, or Caleb Williams is nowhere near Rodgers. You can't say that, of course. But the fact that Rodgers got injured in the first game, and Zach Wilson hasn't played good in his early on career, but he's still young, and there's still a question of, like, what if this kid does amount to something, because he's still young, and I think that would be a situation with the Bears that'd be kind of nice, like,
Yeah.
Caleb Williams doesn't amount to anything, or Caleb Williams gets injured, the Bears also will have Fields to fall back on, and also in kind of that competition between, like, Fields and Caleb Williams, I think it would kind of drive both quarterbacks to want to excel in their craft, because we have two young quarterbacks at the helm fighting for a spot. So I think that friendly competition would be good for both.
And it's tough.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say also from me is it'd be tough because who's to say Justin Fields would even be okay with that?
Yeah.
Let's say we get Caleb Williams this
It
year.
doesn't matter what he
Yeah.
thinks. He hasn't shown us, like, true signs of life other than his run game. So he doesn't have a say in any of that.
So
I agree, but he's got to want to stay with the team. Look at Chase Claypool. Obviously elephant in the room. Chase Claypool, and I know we'll probably talk more about this later, Joe, or whatever, but Chase Claypool's had enough for his, for whatever reason, right? We all know, just he's not getting the volume. He's just whatever, right?
So
Yeah.
that's a very good point, because if Justin Fields demands a trade request,
he's
that
gonna demand
automatically lowers his value, because now the Bears
Exactly.
have a priority to get him off the team,
Exactly.
and teams understand that. So thank you for bringing
Exactly.
that up. That is a very good point. So the Bears have a tough choice on their hands. I don't know what they're going to do, but we'll see.
So another question I have, let's just do baseball. The Blackhawks guy, Tony DeCostanzo, probably an expert, similar to Andrew on knowledge with hockey versus baseball. We're gonna cut this one a little shorter. We're gonna bring him on, talk a little bit about the Blackhawks, probably for like 20 minutes, on a separate video that I will upload on YouTube. So another question I have is, will Matt Eberflus lose his job if they lose to the Commanders? If so, who will take his spot? And who else is getting fired? I think that my opinion is that if Matt Eberflus loses to the Commanders, it's game over for him. So Matt Eberflus is probably not getting any sleep at night. He's probably staying up all night, scheming, trying to plan on how to beat this team. And let me tell you, man, the Commanders are a team to reckon with. Ron Rivera, baby. Shout out to an 85 Chicago Bear linebacker. This guy's going to bring the heat.
Joe,
Tomorrow night.
I'm so glad you brought up the Commanders. I am, because I have a whole.
Oh yeah.
I'm not kidding with you. I have a whole special on the Commanders. So I'm gonna
start the next video. But 7:45. We're gonna start the next. So either way, I think that.
Well, hold on. If we have a lot to talk about this segment, then maybe we should hold off on this segment.
I still have a lot.
Well, because it sounds as if that he's going to need more than 10 minutes.
So yeah. All right. So I'm going to cut the video short here. We'll get back to this, and then I'll add it all together at the end. All right.
Got it.
All right. So we will be back. All right. So I already gave my thought on who I think, or what I think will happen to Matt Eberflus if he loses to the Commanders. Brandon, do you think that Matt Eberflus will lose his job? And if so, what interim coach do you think will replace him?
Well, Joe, I think it depends. I think if it's mid-season, I think it only makes sense for me to have Luke Getsy be the replacement. I think it's very difficult to bring in like an external coach mid-season, and actually you never really see that. So I think for me, I think the question is this: if Eberflus were to get fired, I think the question is that going to happen or not? And I think if he does, I think it makes sense to bring in the offensive coordinator. Luke Getsy for me is 100% surefire if Eberflus were to get fired. Now, do I think Eberflus will get fired? You know what? It's his second year, and for that reason, I don't think he'll get fired mid-season. I think Eberflus 100%. If the field experiment fails, I think the Eberflus experiment fails. But I just don't see Eberflus getting fired in the middle of only his second season. But I will say one thing, Joe, and I don't want to deviate too much from the topic, but I do have like kind of a breakdown segment I want to go over. I'm going to call it, and I don't know if this is going to be something regular that I do. It might be. But I kind of have a spotlight. I want to call it a spotlight section. I know, Joe, you brought up the Commanders, and I think you just kind of segued me into this segment perfectly. So I want to address it, right? So let's talk about Sam Howell, the quarterback for the Washington Commanders, just for a second here. As far as experience in the league goes, Sam Howell had only started one game last year, on top of him winning the starting position this year. He started Week 18 for the Commanders last year against Dallas. Doesn't matter what the outcome was. That's not what the principle of starting him was for. A little bit of background knowledge on Sam Howell. He went to UNC, University of North Carolina. He was actually drafted in the 5th round, 144th overall. So I think all these details are important when you consider how well this kid has played for a Commanders team that is pretty suspect, in my opinion. I don't think the Commanders are bad. I think the Commanders have some good talent. I think when you look at the Commanders, they have Scary Terry. They have last year's rookie, Jahan Dotson. I think they have some good players. They have a decent defense. But the reason I want to bring him up is because I saw the highlights for the Washington Commanders game against the Philadelphia Eagles, and I was blown away. I know I've done a couple breakdowns on how fantastic the Philadelphia Eagles have been, and the fact that this young kid, in only his 5th NFL start with an overall suspect team, was able to accomplish what he accomplished this week is absolutely incredible. And I think Sam Howell deserves to be in the spotlight. And let me break down a couple things. First of all, his ability to stay poised in the pocket. There was only 40 seconds left. And this was in the 4th quarter. There was 40 seconds left in the 4th quarter on 4th and 2. This kid was able, on 4th and 2, game-deciding play, down 31-24 against arguably one of the best teams in the leagues. He was able to scan the field with good protection, and he was able to convert on 4th and 2. I was impressed right there and then. The dude just keep moving the ball down the field. It was fantastic. 2 seconds left in the game. In their own red zone. 2 seconds left in the 4th quarter. Still down 31-24. Sam Howell was able to get the ball to Jahan Dotson. for a touchdown to inevitably tie the game and bring the game to 31. They ended up going into overtime. The game that I saw from Sam Howell was fantastic. Even in overtime, he played phenomenal. There's actually a lot of controversy in this, in that he had a fantastic ability to throw the ball. He threw the ball very well to Scary Terry. Scary Terry had just gotten out of bounds. He wasn't able to get the ball in bounds. And essentially, they punted the ball. You give the ball to the Eagles offense, they're going to get the job done. They got down the field. Their kicker was able to hit a 54-yarder, and they lost the game. But I was extremely impressed with Sam Howell. Everything he was able to do, how poised he was in the pocket, how clutch he was when they most needed him. And I think the reason why I brought this to our attention is that this isn't something I can foresee Justin Fields doing whatsoever. What do you guys think about that? Like, is this something this isn't something we see out of Justin Fields at all?
Yeah, the simple fact that this was, you said, his fifth, right? His fifth game in his entire career, and he's already playing better. And it's not like he's on a great team. He's on like a mediocre, kind of an average team, right? So hats off to Sam.
So Sam Howell, I think that that him and I think Sam Howell exposed the Broncos. I know. Sorry.
No,
Sam
we're
Howell.
feeling it.
Sam Howell and Tua Tagovailoa exposed the Broncos. That's the other guy's name I was thinking of. Tua Tagovailoa, or however the hell you say his last name. Exposed.
Tagovailoa or some shit.
Either way, whatever.
That's funny.
We're Bears fans, so exposed the Broncos defense, and they made a point that the Broncos defense is not very good, and so did Justin Fields. So Brandon, to get to your point, about Sam Howell, I mean, dude, after 5 games, I mean, after a bad defense, one of the games, I mean, I don't know how much can you say that. Like, he is that guy for the Commanders. I mean,
well, no, he had a good game against the Eagles, who are one of the best teams in football. No,
he did.
They are, and one of the best defenses.
So, do you think Justin Fields on the Washington Commanders would have an equal or better game?
No,
than
I don't.
Sam?
But even more importantly, right? And I can kind of elaborate on it a little bit. I know it was long-winded, but I think I got my point across, right?
Yeah.
My point is that you can take a rookie in this league, and he can prove that he has the talent and the awareness and the leadership ability to do that. You're going up against the Eagles. They have one of the best front 7 in the league, and he was able to stay in the pocket and deliver when they needed him to. I don't see that clutch factor from Justin Fields, and that's why I want to talk about Justin Fields for a moment too. There was a play, and I know, Joe, you probably were going to mention this yourself. But there was a standout. There was so there was 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Joe, do you recall Eberflus calling a play-action pass?
Yes, I do.
With 7 minutes left? You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
The issue that I have with this is that you don't know who to blame at this point. You don't know if you want to blame Eberflus for flat out calling the play action in a situation
Eberflus
like that.
didn't call the play though for that. It was Luke Getsy.
Luke Getsy.
Yeah.
But more importantly than any of that, you're Justin Fields. You are supposed to do what Aaron Rodgers does. You're supposed to do what Peyton Manning does, Tom Brady. Scan the field, call an audible if needed. I wish that I could put it on screen. You guys have to go back and watch it. 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Number 42 collected his easiest sacked fumble I've ever seen anybody ever collect in my life. This guy was on the line of scrimmage, unprotected, with not a single lineman in front of him. Justin Fields fake fake hands the ball off to the running back, runs around, gets absolutely clobbered in less than 2 seconds. If you are going to run a play-action play, you have to have the wherewithal to say, hey, do we have the protection to do that? Do we have, you know what I'm saying? If you don't, call an audible, change it, run up the gut, do what you got to do. That was such a crucial part in this game, Joe and Andrew. Yep. This was when the Bears were up 28-21. This was the most boneheaded call I've ever seen, which inevitably ended up putting the situation of the game into a 28-28 tie, where then with 3 minutes left in the game, Justin Fields threw a pick. Of course he did, right?
Because he's not good under pressure.
Well, I mean, that pick was...
And then we lost the game to a field goal.
Yeah, I mean, so...
It's terrible.
That pick was because it sounds like there was some miscommunication with Cole Kmet and Justin Fields. You know, Cole Kmet went left, Justin Fields threw it right. It was picked off. So I think Justin Fields was anticipating that Cole Kmet was going to run to the right, not the left. But yeah, no, either way, I mean, it was unacceptable. It sucks that we lost the game because of that. I think it all boils down to Matt Eberflus shouldn't have called us to, he should have did a field goal. Santos is very good at kicking anything 55 yards or less. I mean, it's almost guaranteed for a field goal. He should have kicked a field goal. What that tells me is that him going for it on 4th and 1 is that he doesn't trust the defense. And which is concerning to me because he is a defensive-minded guy, but he doesn't trust the defense to run it to stop the Broncos from scoring. Obviously, they did.
Joe, that fourth and 1 run by Justin Fields and the Bears. Yeah. If I saw correctly, that was in a shotgun formation.
It wasn't a shotgun, and
which is already stupid in itself.
Yeah, why don't you just have Justin Fields run it off the middle or whatever? I mean,
have a better chance. Why are you running in a shotgun formation?
And let's not forget, boys.
Yeah.
This is not the fucking Kansas City Chiefs that we're dealing with here. Where, you know what, you give them...
mediocre team that we're dealing with.
You give them the ball.
Not a good team.
Mahomes is going to get them down the field. We're talking about the Broncos.
Yeah. Bear down!
About the Broncos, man. We don't trust our defense to stop the Broncos in this league. Get out of here.
The Broncos who gave up 70 fucking points, dude.
I mean, that's their defense. We're kind of evaluating the offense.
I know, I'm just saying. It's just a whole spectrum.
Well, I mean, like I said, they don't trust the Bears defense, which is funny and ironic because Matt Eberflus is the defensive coordinator or defensive-minded guy that's calling the plays for the defense, and he gives it into the hands of Luke Getsy, which, yes, Justin Fields was in shotgun. He handed off to Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert doesn't get the first down. You know, the Broncos get the ball, and they end up winning due to a field goal.
Hey, before we get too sidetracked, I just want to bring up one thing, and this is not football related. Last week, there were some bets on what the Bears' score is going to be, and also if the Cubs were if they were going to make the playoffs. Of course, I was right in both manners because I'm never wrong because I know what the fuck I'm talking about. But Brandon was incorrect because he said the score of the game was going to be what?
I said 13-10 Denver.
All right, 13-10 Denver. So he lost on that. He was the furthest away from that score. I said the Cubs were going to miss the playoffs to go 1-5 in their last 6 games. They ended up going 0-6 to top that off. So I'm correct. They missed the playoffs. Both of these guys said that they were going to make the playoffs. So they owe me a shot for that as well. So we're going to get one of the shots out of the way for Joe and Brandon at the moment. So let's get that through right now.
Now let me ask you before we pour that out. I had predicted 13-10 Denver. What were your guys' predictions? Because I don't remember.
You're right.
I want to confirm here that I am going to have to take the shot.
All right. So I said that it was going to be 24-14 in Chicago. And Joe?
I said it was going to be the Broncos win 28-17.
You know, are you sure Andrew doesn't take a shot? I mean, he predicted the wrong team. That's as wrong as you can get, right?
So no, it goes by points. So whoever's the furthest distance
Dude, quite
away.
frankly, I kind of forgot who I actually voted for.
I feel like
So
you
I said the
Denver,
Broncos
bro,
were
to be
gonna win
Yeah,
28.
honestly,
I feel like you
Bears
said
were gonna
Okay,
win 17.
okay. I'm sorry. I said Denver 24, Chicago 14.
All right, either way,
Well,
whatever.
no,
fuck,
100%. I did say Denver, and I'm sorry for that. All right. So I
Either
was
way, they
right.
won though. So Denver won.
But what I will say is
I think it
going
was
forward.
30 what? 31 to 28. I think it was the final score.
Yeah, it was Denver.
Regardless, you were the furthest away from
What
it.
I will say is moving
Yeah.
forward, I think it's fair to go off of points, and I rightfully lost. But in the event that let's say I'm further away, but I got the team right, you're closer but got the team wrong. I think predicting the winning team is more important.
No, you are 100.
You get what I'm saying?
100% correct.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and my mistake was the fact that I'm drinking 13% beers right now, so mine is.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel it a little bit too.
All right, Andrew.
I'm done.
I'm getting deja vu. Pour this motherfucker.
Let's go.
Oh yeah, baby.
Hey,
Board the
hey,
Malört.
Hey, and last week, Joe, you made a big deal about me not brimming it for Brandon.
No.
Should I brim it for you?
I'll brim it. Yeah.
All right. Sounds
Hey,
good.
if I'm saying you don't brim it, and I call out Brandon for not brimming it, then I say, oh, don't brim it for me. No, that's not like what I'm about.
Oh my gosh.
I'm about going full. Dude, I like Malört. Malört's not that bad.
All right,
like
so
Malört, but
hey,
fuck, I'm not
just
in the
know,
mood, you know?
know, this guy needs to take one more shot after
Oh,
this. Joe, this
God
is your one and
damn.
only
So I don't know
shot.
if you guys know, but one beer is equivalent to one shot. So taking one
This
shot
shit is
equivalent
fucking
to one beer.
diabolical.
All
How
right, guys.
disgusting it is.
All right, let's
All right, Brandon.
keep it tight
to
here.
us
All right,
losing
go.
that the Cubs make the playoffs. This is the one I lost.
This is the
dude.
one, yeah.
Let's go,
All right,
boys.
Hey, Cubbies.
Hey,
Cubs-
hey,
Cubbies, thanks for
Cheers.
letting me down.
The Cubs just never continue. Fuck me, man. Cheers, Joe and Andrew.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Wow.
It's not so bad. It's not that bad.
All right, so please keep watching for his second shot of Malört. It's only going to be funnier as the night goes on. I promise you that. Definitely, but I'm sure you guys need a minute to
I'm all right.
digest what just happened. But we're not going to give you that minute. So let's just jump right back into football. you know?
All right, so what do you want to talk?
Yeah.
What else do you want to talk about? I got one more thing about.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the last thing I got is it's about Chase Claypool. So the Bears are asking for a 5th or 6th round pick for Claypool. He's not active anymore for the Bears roster. Do you think Chase Claypool is worth a 5th or 6th round? And I personally don't think the Bears should have said, hey, we're looking for a 5th or 6th round. I would have been adamant about, hey, I want a 5th round pick for Claypool. I wouldn't say 6, because if you give me an option for 6, I'm going to say, hey, I'll give you a 6, no problem. I mean, how many 6th round picks? The last 6th round pick that I know that actually panned out to be good was Tom Brady. I think Tom Brady was picked in the 6th round. He ended up being, obviously, we know the rest is history for him. If I was Ryan Poles, I would say, hey, I want a 4th round pick for Claypool. He's not working out here in Chicago. We all know the drama Chase Claypool is bringing to Chicago. What do you guys think?
So, okay, this is where I think you're fucking wrong, dude. The Bears should not put a round on a player. They should just say, hey, look, Claypool is on the market, and we're looking to get something of value in return. Yeah. And then you talk to the GM, and then you guys discuss whether or not what round that's going to be. But if you put a 5th, if you say off rip, hey, we're looking for a 5th or 6th round pick for Claypool, you're gridlocked on getting a 5th or 6th or lower pick for Claypool. But if you say, hey, look, Claypool's on the market, we're looking to actively trade him as soon as possible, teams may be like, okay, well, we can give you a 4th for him, and that's better value than having a 5th.
Dude, I totally agree with you, Andrew.
Thank you.
I think that they shouldn't have given up 5th or 6th, because that already hurts
it's just stupid.
the trade value.
Yeah.
That makes me think that you're desperate and then you want to get rid of this guy.
100%.
You don't want anything to do with him. I mean, we already know the history with Chase Claypool, that they told him after he had that press conference when he said that, hey, Chase, do you think that the Bears are using you to your strength? And he said no.
Look,
I'll take it a step further. I'll take it even a step further.
Okay.
You don't even have to specify shit. You don't have to commit to like some sort of trade market. If you just keep things in-house. Like, look, I understand that Chase Claypool, you know, he obviously went in front of the media and said some controversial things. And obviously reporters are going to eat that up and people are going to know about it. But, you know, if you're Matt Eberflus and you identify an issue right away, what's going to stop you from saying, hey, by the way, everybody, this guy's on the trade block?
Brandon, I'm glad you brought that point up because Matt Eberflus was interviewed in the press conference and he was like all over the place when the reporters asked him, so did you tell Chase Claypool to stay at home?
Yeah.
Or did you tell him that he could come to the game? Or what happened? And he said, what's your question again? And it's like he was trying to dance around the questions the media was trying to ask Matt Eberflus. And he basically said, no, we told him that he had the option to come to the game or not to. ESPN 1000 later on, so, you know, which is a lot harder of an interview. I mean, you got that one guy, oh my God, I can't think of his name.
Dan Orlovsky, baby.
Not Dan Orlovsky. He's a Chicago reporter. Either way, he asked Matt Eberflus about it, and Matt Eberflus said no.
David Kaplan.
Yes, David Kaplan.
Actually?
Thank you. Yes, it was. No, it was
David
David
Kaplan.
Kaplan.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yes, David Kaplan. David Kaplan was
Actually?
hard. Yes,
I don't
he's
That's
right.
kinda
No,
fucking
he's right.
crazy, bro.
He's
Okay.
right. He's right. David Kaplan.
Wow.
So was ESPN 1000.
Wow.
David Kaplan and someone else asked
Who's
Matt
the guy
Eberflus.
that he's with?
He said
I
that in
forgot.
complete.
Sorry, Joe.
It was
I know.
total
Thank you.
bullshit.
Thank you.
He did not
Yep.
actually mean David Kaplan. He just threw out a random name and
Yeah,
it
I
actually
didn't mean
stuck.
that. He covers the Bears. You know
Yeah,
that,
he
right?
covers ESPN 1000.
Yeah.
David Kaplan does.
David Kaplan
Yeah, I know,
covers
but
the
like
fucking Bears.
you didn't think that was actually.
Used to
David
be on
Kaplan.
MSNBC.
It was kind of a guess.
It was a guess. Okay, that's all I'm saying.
That's
it was,
good.
it
No,
was
I
an
couldn't think of his
educated
name.
guess that stuck.
But David Kaplan, either way, asked him, and it was pretty hard on Eberflus. And Eberflus said, no, we asked Chase Claypool to stay at home, even though he told the media and lied to the media and said that we gave him the option to try and make them sell, you know, to try to make coaching look better. Like, oh, no, we gave him the option. Like, oh, you could come to the game. But no, they did not. He said that they told Chase Claypool to stay at home after that comment about that the coaches are not using him to his strengths. So that makes
Dude, think about
the
it,
coaches
Joe.
look bad. That makes Matt Eberflus look bad. And they should have not have told Matt Eberflus,
Joe,
or they should have
think
not
about
have told
it.
Chase Claypool to stay at home.
What if the Bears took a different approach? What if the Bears, and this is right, I get it. You know, if a player acts out, you got to set examples, and you got to bench your players. You got to do stuff. But
You gotta
listen,
make an
let me
example.
play let me give you an alternate situation, Andrew and Joe.
Sure.
What if they didn't bench him? What if they let him play because he's obviously a talented player? And what if they just immediately started reaching out to other GMs and saying, "Hey, are you interested in a guy like Claypool?" That way, you might get some solid value
Right.
for him.
Yes.
And you're just not like completely diminishing his entire fucking value.
So Brandon,
Yes,
I get what you're totally saying, but they did start.
Or let me say one more thing, Joe. Or if that's not the route you want to take, as a manager, like, what if you just approach the situation? And I get it; these managers have a difficult job; they get asked difficult questions. Pull a Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
Don't answer the fucking question.
Right.
Something we're gonna deal with in house. Don't worry about it right now. Next question. Done. You deal with it in house, and then you evaluate the situation from there.
Brandon, I could not agree with you more. I think the Bears handled this entire situation very poorly.
And they did.
Very poorly. Just like how you said with Bill, you don't have to answer these questions. It's just media at the end of the day. And as for Chris Claypool, you know, Chase. I'm sorry. They should have started Chase. If you intend on trading Chase Claypool, why would you not start him? By benching him, that means there's, you know, that just proves that there's issues going on in the field, because everyone knows that Chase Claypool is a healthy guy, and by benching him, there's in-house issues, which automatically diminishes his trade value. You know, the Bears should have played it cool, like probably every smart team should have. They shouldn't have answered any freaking questions by the media. They should have played Chase Claypool, and they should have acted like nothing was wrong.
But also, I'll make one more argument. I mean, the Bears shouldn't be in a situation where we're that desperate. Like we're debating and we're so upset over a potential 3rd round pick compared to a 5th round pick. Who cares? That's not even going to. That's not going to make a huge difference.
Desperate times comes desperate measures.
Now
it does matter
it
for
is
the Bears.
Desperate times.
They're literally talking about now just cutting Claypool and not even getting.
Like, dude, we gave up a 2nd round pick for that turned into a first
round pick. Yeah,
and we're gonna fucking want to accept a 5th round or 6th round in return for Claypool? No, of course we're gonna want to get as much value in return back.
We're not. We're
like everyone knows we fucked this entire trade up. We all know we fucked the entire trade up.
At this point, we would be lucky to get a 6th round pick.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
How good did C.J. Stroud look this week?
Look great.
When you compare him to like Bryce Young,
dude, Stroud is looking like the top quarterback of the draft, and before the season even started, I said Stroud is the better quarterback. I didn't say it on video, so there's no proof, but I promise you, I did say that, and it's truly looking.
I feel like he has the better build. I feel.
I mean, the Commanders OC. I mean, that's one of the topics for not drafting, but picking for our head coach.
Yeah.
You know, so no, yeah. I mean. Yeah, we'll see. It's not looking good though. So,
Hey, so guys, I know I asked a question earlier. I have another, and please, again, this is another one of those situations where we'd love your guys' support. We'd love for you to comment your own opinions. Believe me, we're gonna read all of them. You know, it's not like we got a ton of comments to look through. We'll see them and we'll respond. But I think this will generate some good conversation. Have you guys heard about the controversy that's going on with the Chargers right now? No? I wouldn't necessarily call it controversy, but I think it's something that should be addressed. Week 4 of the NFL, the Chargers were playing, I believe, the Raiders. And Brandon Staley, their coach, decided to go for it on 4th down in their own territory, leading by 7 points. 24-17 in their own territory. Instead of punting the ball and making their defense defend the entire field, what they did was they went for it on maybe the 25-yard line on a 4th and 1 situation. They did not convert, meaning their opponent was 25 yards away from a touchdown score to tie the game with plenty of time. That's a huge gamble.
That's stupid.
That's a huge gamble.
Stupid. Yeah.
Let me add to it. That's the 2nd time. That's 2 weeks in a row that happened. Don't ask me what team it was. I can't remember. But last week in week 3, the Chargers did the exact same thing. Up 7 points in their own territory. Went for it on 4th and 1. Again, it was against the Vikings last week in week 3. Went for it on 4th and 1. Didn't convert, gave Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson a chance to tie the game in their own territory, right?
So the Vikings.
The Vikings have a lethal offense, so that's not a good idea. And they did it again.
A lethal receiving core of
a lethal offense. So I wanted to ask you guys, do you appreciate Brandon Staley and what he did, or do you think that it was absolutely malpractice as an NFL coach?
That was disgusting and stupid decision by him. You know, there's not a situation, dude. You have to trust your defense to make that stop. You punt on your 25. All right,
You're only up by 1 touchdown.
You're up by a touchdown. But you got to trust your defense is going to come up big and stop them there. You know, like. In what situation do you think it's a great idea to go for it on 4th and 1 in your own 25? Seriously,
2 weeks in a row he did that, and
that's
both
stupid.
times he failed.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
And that's and it's truly sad because the Chargers, they have a great team, right? Like Like, they have Mike Williams, who unfortunately got injured with an ACL. I would know because I also tore my ACL. Sucks. Head off to you for going through that. But they have a good quarterback. They have an overall great team, right?
Dude, they have Khalil. Don't they have Khalil Mack?
Who had 6 sacks in one game, which is kind of ridiculous.
Team, bro. Yeah, good thing the Bears traded.
But that is a sickening thing that a coach could do. You got to trust your defense. You know, you have a great defensive line as it is on the Chargers. Trust your defense. Punt the ball.
You want to know what the cherry on top?
Punt the ball. Why would you not punt the ball? You're in your own 25.
You want to know the cherry on top?
What the fuck is wrong with you?
Both games, the Chargers won. Which means both games, Brandon Staley got bailed out.
That's not sustainable.
By his defense. But here's what's funny. He didn't trust his defense.
But his defense won the game for him.
Bailed him out both times. Instead of giving his defense 75 yards to work with, he gave his defense 20 yards to work with. And he's just one lucky son of a bitch that he got in, I think it was against the Vikings. Kirk Cousins threw a interception in the end zone. And the Chargers against the Raiders, I believe it was, were able to get the stop. And you know what? It's crazy.
He is getting lucky at the moment, but that's not sustainable luck. It's going to come a time where he's going to call that same exact play because it's been working out, and he's going to get bit in the ass for it. It's all going to come to fruition. He's going to be on the hot seat because he lost a crucial game because of a stupid mistake like that. And you already know that's a stupid mistake because how often do you see an NFL head coach making that decision? When do you ever see an NFL head coach making that decision unless it's a dire need to make that call?
Yeah, well, right? It seems like NFL coaches are getting more aggressive. Eberflus, or
it's like
Luke Getsy called it. Yeah, Getsy called it.
It's like the Bears. They don't trust the defense.
Yeah, but they got to do shit. You know, the defense already sucks as it is. They're 0-8.
But again,
lost 14 games.
You're right. And I don't want to beat a dead horse, but
they got to change it up.
You keep on saying that the defense sucks, but you're putting your sucky defense up against a sucky offense in the fucking Broncos. You got to know who your opponent is. Do the Bears even scout their fucking opponents before they go into a game? I mean, right. That's my problem. If it's I made this example earlier. If it's the Chiefs, fine, go for it on 4th and 1. Because you know what? If you give
because you
the
have
ball,
Travis
they're
Kelce,
score.
you have
but I'm just saying.
And Patrick Mahomes himself.
You give it to the Broncos, they're going to score. There's no guarantee they're going to score.
Russell Wilson, he's not a good quarterback. He got exposed.
Russell Wilson maybe now is not a good quarterback, but dude, Russell Wilson's history as a quarterback is a good quarterback. He is, man. You can't deny that.
And the last thing that I wanted to touch on, boys, in terms of NFL, and then Joe, I'll let you, if you have anything else on the NFL. Andrew, I know you have a little baseball segment for us, as always. We're looking forward to that. I don't want to touch too much. However, one more question for both of you. Does Christian McCaffrey have a legitimate chance at winning the MVP award this year?
It's a stupid question. If Christian McCaffrey stays healthy, of course he has a chance. He's just that good of a player. But if he stays healthy.
So, Brandon, I love that question because I really think that it should be considered the quarterback award because it's always given to quarterbacks.
Yep.
It's never given to. I think the last time it was given to a running back was Adrian Peterson.
Yep.
2010 or something, 2009.
Like that. Yep.
So yes, I totally agree that Christian McCaffrey is one of those guys that could be a candidate for the MVP. But I think they really should change the name of the award to the quarterback award because it's always quarterbacks that get it.
Or they just come out with 2 awards: the most valuable quarterback in the league and the most valuable non-quarterback in the league.
Yeah. Have any quarterbacks this year putting up numbers that are just awe-inspiring? Think about it. You're perennial all-stars. You're guys like Mahomes. You're guys like Josh Allen. You know what I'm saying? Aaron Rodgers is injured. that puts, that kind of puts into perspective that I don't think there are any NFL quarterbacks that are playing or are more important to the team than Christian McCaffrey is right now. And I think that's the argument I have for McCaffrey.
Yeah, man, he's a great player. He plays really hard. It's hard to stop Christian McCaffrey when he's running with the ball.
Yeah.
He reminds me a lot like Walter Payton. Trying to stop him, he makes the players pay for trying to tackle him. It makes you almost not want to tackle him because of how hard he runs. Not only is Christian McCaffrey good at running the ball, he's also good at throwing the ball for some odd reason. I mean, they've had plays where they schemed up where they throw the ball to Christian McCaffrey, he throws the ball for a touchdown.
Derrick Henry threw a damn touchdown this week.
Yeah, right.
Really?
Derrick Henry has a passing touchdown,
which is
NFL.
really cool.
That is very cool. And
yes, I think that CMC, Christian McCaffrey, it could definitely be a runner-up or could be a candidate and win the MVP. Absolutely.
I think overall it was a fun question. Thank you guys for your answers. I think, you know what? You never know. We'll have to wait and see. Joe, I think if I can say one thing, I think Joe and Andrew, you both said it best in one way each. Joe, I think you said it best in that it should be the quarterback award. You don't often see it as a running back award. But I think given all the circumstances and with the way that McCaffrey's played, I think it's possible. And also to Andrew's point, I think for that to even be considered, I think McCaffrey has to stay healthy. I know firsthand, I drafted McCaffrey 1 year in fantasy. He was injured all year. The year before that, he was injured. We all know how injured he gets. So if he stays healthy, and if the quarterbacks in this league continue to coast, is a good way to put it, it's possible, and that would be a fun story.
He's been healthy now for the last
something
year,
I'm going to keep an eye on. That's for sure.
Is that all we have for football?
Yeah, that's all I got, man.
That was a great segment, guys.
But
really awesome.
the Bears. So basically what we got from this is if the Bears do not win against the Commanders, Matt Eberflus is getting fired, and they're going to hire an interim coach probably within the organization to coach the Chicago Bears. So,
well,
start with
an
baseball.
Awesome segment.
Yeah.
We will have a lot more football talk next week when our new video drops next week, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's safe to say that we can move on to baseball.
Yep,
absolutely.
Let's go, baby.
Real quick, and before
Cubs and Sox,
and before we get started on baseball, I just want to say rest in peace to Tim Wakefield. He passed away at the age of 57 from terminal brain cancer.
It's horrible.
That's truly just a terrible thing to read because
rest in peace.
Tim Wakefield was a major part of our childhood, of course. Some of his career accolades and stats. He won 200 games, so he's a part of the 200-win club. He lost 180 games, but he pitched to a 4.41 ERA, 2,156 strikeouts, which is very good, and a WHIP of 1.35, and 3,226 innings pitched, which is insane. He had a very long career. Obviously, Tim Wakefield is known for his knuckleball. He had an elite knuckleball. And I implore all of you guys
knuckleball.
Yeah, I implore all of you guys to go on YouTube and look up some of his highlights and some of the knuckleballs he's thrown because they truly were disgusting.
So Andrew, can you tell me? I think we talked about.
Wait, Joe, and one thought after this.
Sure.
And one more thing to add about Tim Wakefield. He won the World Series with the Red Sox in 2004 and 2007. So he was a major contribution to those championship winning teams. So from a baseball, from a baseball fan and as a kid growing up and watching Tim Wakefield on the highlights, rest in peace. We're very sad about you passing away, and your family and yourself will be in our prayers tonight.
Now don't get it twisted. We are not Red Sox fans.
No, but
not whatsoever.
Yeah.
But
God bless him and his family.
No, for sure. God bless them. God bless Tim Wakefield. And I just, if I can just interject a childhood memory I have of Tim Wakefield. I recall playing, what was it? I can't recall exactly. Maybe it was
MLB 2K 2005.
MLB 2K5 when you still had your Sosas and your McGuires in the league. But I do specifically recall just playing Wakefield just for that knuckleball. So no doubt about it, Wakefield is he's an iconic player to the Major League Baseball for that knuckleball. Huge success in the league, and rest in peace to him, and God bless him and his family.
Yep, 100%. Joe, you had a question?
Yeah, so Tim Wakefield was known for his knuckleball, right?
Yes.
Correct.
So, Andrew, what would you consider the best pitch in baseball to be? The best pitch, the hardest pitch to hit in baseball.
Kodai Senga's ghost forkball, baby.
So that's
a discussion.
So that's actually a very, very good point. I mean, and I do agree that pitch is fucking disgusting, and excuse my language, but it is disgusting. But if we're taking Senga out of this and just overall baseball kind of viewpoint, I'm going with the high four-seam fastball. I think it's a pitch where it's very hard to catch up to.
So tell us a little bit about the knuckleball, Andrew. Like you said that the knuckleball is definitely not the hardest pitch to hit.
So
yes.
So there's a reason why not many pitchers throw the knuckleball, because number one, the knuckleball requires you to have a different catcher glove than usual, because it's that difficult of a pitch to predict and catch as it is. So you're going with an unorthodox catcher's mitt as it is. Number two, it's a very hard pitch to throw. Not many people know how to throw a knuckleball. I think there's only like one active guy on the MLB roster, and quite frankly, I don't even know his name. It's that rare.
So the knuckleball, from my understanding, is that it goes like this. Like you don't like.
So what's fascinating about the knuckleball is that your intent on throwing the ball is for it to not have any spin. And the reason for it not having
zero spin.
That's crazy.
It not having any spin is the reason why it really will go in any direction. It's really wherever the wind wants to take it. And there's no spin that's saying, hey, let's go in this direction,
And to build off of what you said today, I was watching a baseball game. I forgot who was pitching at the moment, but basically there was a pitcher who threw a splitter today, and basically an average split ball has a rotations per minute or per second of 1,300, and this guy had 1,600 rotations per splitter he threw, that just goes to show, like, a normal pitch that's being thrown has thousands of rotations as it's being thrown to home plate, but a knuckleball truly has zero spin. That's what
crazy.
Makes it ridiculous. But moving on from the knuckleball and Tim Wakefield, it's very sad to hear what happened to him, and we wish him and his family nothing but the best, and the Red Sox organization. But moving on, breaking news in the Chicago Cubs world: David Ross has been confirmed for another season by Jed Hoyer and Tom Ricketts. I don't know how I feel about that personally. I'm not not too big on David Ross. Let's say I have my differences. There's a reason why I put this Cubs jersey on, and it's not because of David Ross or anything. It's because of something that I realized while the podcast was going on. I'm going to explain very shortly. But
hold on a minute. Why are you being soft right now, dude?
What?
You fucking hate David Ross. Like, that wasn't convincing, dude. Like,
yeah, you do.
Let's be real on this podcast.
Be honest. Yeah, why do you hate
David Ross? You fucking hate David Ross, dude. Yeah. You're over here. Hey, you're over here. Oh yeah, I don't really like that. You hate him, bro.
Yeah, all right. Okay. So
I almost feel like you rather have that Eberflus.
All right. So
let's hear what you really think, bro. Come on now.
All right. Since I've gotten put on the spot, I guess I can just say fuck it, right? But I don't think David Ross should be the manager of the Chicago Cubs. I think I would appreciate anyone else other than David Ross at this moment. It's pretty aggravating from a fan standpoint that okay, so if a team collapsed the way the Cubs did in September, who do you blame? Do you blame the players or do you blame the manager? I'm going to answer that for you guys. That's not a answer.
I-
That's not. I don't need a response for you guys.
Okay.
9 out of 10 times, it's going to be the manager's fault, right?
Especially when you're the Cubs
yes.
not dealing with injuries.
Exactly.
Or
well,
Suzuki
okay.
missing
Well,
that catch.
that's where I disagree. The bullpen was kind of.
Okay, maybe the bullpen.
The bullpen was
a little
bad.
taxed.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was taxed. It was hurt, but for whatever reason in this situation, David Ross didn't get blamed for the Cubs going 16,
19.
6 and 17, whatever.
6 and 19.
Yeah, 6 and 19 to end the season. And I just want to say this real quick. I looked this up personally because I had to figure out the number. At the end of play on September 6th, the Cubs swept San Francisco, and their playoff percentage stood at 92.4% chance of making the fucking playoffs, dude. I'm fucking pissed off right now. They had a 92.4% chance of making the playoffs. That's not even the beginning of September. That's already a week into September that they had a 92.4% chance of making. They were 1.5 games behind the Phillies for the number 1 wild card spot, and 1.5 games behind the Milwaukee Brewers. Fuck the Brewers. That's why I put on this fucking jersey, because everyone knows what happened tonight. Fuck the Brewers. Everyone knows what happened. The Cubs were 1.5 games behind the Brewers for the division lead. But somehow, some way, the Cubs proceeded to go 6 and 19 to end the season and not make the playoffs when they had a 92% chance of making the fucking playoffs. That's fucking bullshit, dude.
I agree,
So,
man.
I don't blame the players. I don't blame any fucking injuries. I blame what everyone else blames, and that's the fucking manager. David Ross is the manager of the Chicago Cubs. It's his fucking it's his job to ensure that he's putting out the best lineups every single day, the best position for the bullpen, the best starting rotation. That just simply wasn't happening. How many times did we see at the end of the season a new Cubs lineup every single day? Every single day in September, the Cubs had a new freaking batting order. Seiya Suzuki batting 3. Oh, now today he's batting 7th. Nico Horner batting 2. Now he's batting 5th. Dansby Swanson got dropped down to 8th, but now he's batting fucking 3rd. Why, dude? These players need some decorum in the lineup and know where they're hitting.
Also, what did PCA?
And PCA goes 0 for 14. You know,
not good, man.
It's not good.
Of course he's a rookie, right?
And okay, but this is the issue.
Doesn't help.
This is the issue that I have with PCA, and I have nothing against PCA. He's a young kid. He went 0 for 14 to start his major league career. It's not ideal, right? But the Cubs were winning all of those games with who in center field? Michael Tauchman. Michael Tauchman was in center field of the Cubs, and finally the Cubs had a good freaking true leadoff hitter. First leadoff hitter since Dexter Fowler, right? The Cubs are winning all these games with Michael Tauchman in center field. Michael Tauchman, you know, as every player does, he goes on a cold stretch. And what does David Ross do? Instead of letting freaking Michael Tauchman go through his cold stretch and working the kinks out, no, let's just blow up the entire batting order. Let's freaking change everything around. Let's sit Michael Tauchman on the bench and let other people, you know, take over center field. The Cubs were winning with Tauchman in center field. We were the best team in baseball for months. For 2 months, we were top 5 easily.
You know, dude, I feel like Nico Horner needs to be that guy. Horner needs to be that. Like, I'm sorry, and I think I've referenced this before in a past video, but like, Nico Horner needs to be like that Brandon Nimmo guy, like that, like high energy, table setter, leadoff hitter. Like, that's the type of player that Nico Horner is. Why the fuck isn't he leading off every day? You can even put Ian Happ as a leadoff hitter, dude. Especially with the way that the MLB constructs their lineups these days. You got the Phillies with Schwarber leading off. You got J-Rod leading off for the Mariners sometimes, and it's like because Horner should be that table setter, and then you have guys like Swanson. You have guys like
no, and definitely for sure. The game of baseball, and what Brandon is trying to say here with bringing up Julio Rodriguez batting number 1, is that the game of baseball is evolving. You know, the era of a leadoff hitter, you know, getting on base to set up the third and fourth guy to drive him in, that era is completely over. What teams has realized is that, all right, where can I put my best hitter in the lineup to get the most at-bats in the entire season? And it's obviously number one. So the number one hitter in baseball gets the most at-bats per season, which is roughly around 600.
You know,
so of course you're going to want a guy like Julio Rodriguez to get over 600 at-bats.
Yeah, but they look.
So of course, and the same with Ronald Acuna. That's the
I
best
don't want
hitter.
you to misconstrue what I'm saying. I agree with you, but I also feel like there's a world where your 2, 3, 4 hitters could be your best hitter in the lineup. I think it depends on the talent on your team. Like Francisco Lindor is arguably a better player than Nimmo. You could say Pete Alonso is arguably a better player than Nimmo. Don't get me wrong. Pete Alonso batted maybe maybe 220 this season. But if you're looking for legitimate production, you're not going to get more production than fucking Pete. But you're not going to put Pete at number one. And Lindor is probably the overall better player than Nimmo. But you're not going to put Lindor at one because Nimmo is that guy. He's that table setter. He's got that energy. He's got that speed. The Cubs. I feel like I'm disappointed, and this is coming from a Sox fan. I'm not a Cubs fan. I'm not that invested, but I'm disappointed in a guy like Nico Horner, where it's like he has the ability. He's shown the ability. He has the drive. He has the speed to be a number one guy, and he can make it easier on the Cubs. If the Cubs were able to slot in a guy like Horner and consider him your version of Brandon Nimmo, where it's like every fucking day this guy is going to be our leadoff hitter. We don't have to deviate from that. We don't have to play around with the lineup every day. We have our guy, like how the White Sox, right? The White Sox for many years prior to this year, they had their guy. They had Tim Anderson, number one in their batting order, and he was their table setter. Tim Anderson never deviated from batting number one. And we found success with that. So, like, if you notice, the Cubs all season long never had that true number one. And
so Michael Tauchman came to play.
Michael Tauchman should have, like, to your point, Michael Tauchman, if he was as good as you say he is, and he was good, I know that. I had him on fantasy. Consistently keep him in the number one spot. Let him work out his kinks, like you said.
Yes.
That's all I'm trying to say. There's got to be some lineup construction here. David Ross is doing too much.
Yes. So I just want to talk about, you know, the best hitter batting number one, like Ronald Acuna Jr. here in the Braves lineup. Brandon, tell me, and I know you know this for a fact, can you tell me who was their ninth hitter the entire season on the Braves?
Of course, Michael Harris.
It was Michael Harris. Okay, and Michael Harris gets on base, right?
Of course.
Michael Harris is a good hitter. So
that's your version. That's Nick Madrigal.
And Nick Madrigal did a great job for the Cubs this year. He was getting on base, but that's just what I said earlier. The game of baseball is evolving. You know, like the natural lineup to where your third and fourth hitter is your best hitter is no longer really a thing. Like, you want your guys, your best hitters, to be your 1 and 2 guys, because they just get the most at bats per season. But it's very aggravating, you know, what happened. But
let's not get ahead of ourselves though. I got two things. One, when Michael Harris was struggling and could never find his way on base,
yeah.
He was in the 9-hole for a reason. The 9-hole is an easy spot in the lineup to say, hey, this guy's struggling.
But why did they keep him there?
Because he's got good defense, because they trust him, because they figured he would work it out and figure it out?
No. They kept him in the number 9 seed, or excuse me, the 9 spot, because that just sets up Acuna. Because now Acuna is the theoretical leadoff hitter, but in reality, Michael Harris is. The leadoff hitter starts at number 9 if you have Michael Harris there, because Michael Harris gets on base a lot. So now Michael Harris is on base while Acuna comes up, who's the theoretical number 1 hitter.
But that's not how that works.
But that's really how it works, though. That's and that started with Joe Maddon and the Cubs.
But how does it work that way? If let's say Buddy's throwing a good game, Michael Harris doesn't even bat until the end of the second inning. So, that's not really how it works. Like, the 9 hitter is not the leadoff hitter, dude.
The 9th hitter could serve as a leadoff hitter, and Joe Maddon tested that with the Cubs, and there was another man.
1/3 already into the game.
You still have 2/3 left in majority of the game. Joe Maddon, when he came with the Cubs, he would bat the pitchers. This is when the National League didn't have a DH. He would bat the hitters the pitcher 8, and then he'd have the leadoff or a substitute leadoff hitter batting 9. So Dexter Fowler was our leadoff hitter, but he'd have another guy batting 9 who gets on base and who walks, who hits, because that sets up the rest of the Cubs lineup in a better spot.
In my opinion, I still disagree, man, and I know I don't want to go into this too much, but what I will say is, if based on what you're saying, why not, if Michael Harris really is a threat to get on base as much as he does, why not Michael Harris at 1, Ronald Acuna at 2?
There's no need.
Right, Austin Riley at 3, Matt Olson at 4.
Why would you not? Okay.
And then instead of having Albies at 2, you go ahead and you take Albies, put him a little bit further back in the lineup, just to keep it more, keep it stronger.
Yeah, but that offense is already ridiculous as it is. You have the MVP batting number 1. You have Matt Olson in that lineup batting 2 or 3, who hit, if you guys don't know, he hit over 50 home runs, drove in over 130 RBIs. You have Ozzie Albies, who's also a very good second baseman. Orlando Arcia hit 20 homers this year. Marcell Ozuna in left field, who hit freaking 30. They have already a good lineup. So why not have another good lineup to restart the freaking lineup?
I'm old school.
For Ronald Acuna.
I'm old school. When I think of a leadoff hitter, I think of a Scott Pasednik, right? I think of a Juan Pierre, right? I think of a Tim Anderson. I think of a table setter. I think of a guy with speed. I think of a guy who can just hit the ball, get on base, so that the guys behind them can drive them in. I still believe that. The only reason, the only reason why the Braves are unique, in that the Braves are so good, the Braves are so stacked, that they can get away with putting a guy with so much talent like Ronald Acuna Jr., they can get away with putting a 40-homer guy in their leadoff spot, because you don't need that 40-homer guy in your 3-4, because you have Riley, you have Olson. So the Braves are very unique, but I'm old school. I think that a guy like Nico Horner needs to fucking step it up, needs to be the surefire leadoff hitter for the Cubs, everyday table setter, and that's what the Cubs lacked. I think the Cubs really lacked some consistency in their lineup, and I think it also starts from their leadoff. They never really truly had a leadoff guy, and that could have been Happ, that could have been Horner, for fuck's sake, that could have been Swanson if you wanted it to be. But they never figured it out. They played around with the lineup too much, and I think that's partially David Ross's fault, but I think that ultimately just was a bad thing. It was a bad resulted in a bad outcome.
And there's no right or wrong answer here. It's just your opinion. It's just how the management views something. So Brandon's not wrong here, and we just have different viewpoints on this. But I just wanna end this debate with this one statement. Would you rather have Ronald Acuna have 480 at-bats a year, or would you rather have Ronald Acuna break that 600 threshold at-bats per year? Well, of course, you're going to want Acuna to have 600 at-bats.
Well, I think your best hitter bats second.
Yeah, but he loses value. He has less plate appearances per season.
I don't know if that's 180 plate appearance difference or 120. It depends. I mean, it really depends on game script day to day. But I think, you can get away with putting Acuna at 2. Now, again, because of how good Acuna is, this is all very...
Yeah, it's very subjective.
Of course it is. But I'm just saying, like, specifically to the Braves, Acuna, this is different. We've never seen this before. This guy is an outlier. I'm okay with putting Acuna at 1. He has the speed that I'm talking about. He has the average. He draws the walks. Acuna is the absolute greatest leadoff hitter you could possibly have, but then add 40, 45 home runs on top of it. Like, it's unfathomable what this guy can do. So he's an outlier.
He definitely sets the tone.
So for Ronald Acuna Jr., yes, I want him at 1. However, majority of teams, there should be a surefire number 1 in the order guy.
Yeah, fair enough. But we have a bunch of different other topics to talk about. And going back to what I was talking about with David Ross, because we kind of got off topic here. So David Ross's contract is, he's been confirmed for another season, and everyone knows that. He's not going anywhere. David Ross has 1 year left on his contract remaining with a club option for 2025. So,
you think this is his last year?
So even with the club option for 2025, if the Cubs do not make the playoffs next season, 110% David Ross will not be a Cub in 2025, and that will be a new manager.
That makes sense, though, right?
Do you guys agree?
Yeah.
Or do you guys have a
I
different
totally
opinion?
agree, man.
You guys agree?
So he's had, 5 years now to try and get the Cubs to the playoffs?
This was his 4th season. This was his 4th season.
So four seasons. Sorry.
And we talked about who's to blame for the Cubs' collapse. I already blamed everything on
Suzuki
David
missing
Ross.
the pop fly.
You know what? I think there is some fucking truth behind that, and I hate to say. Hold that thought.
Oh, it's brand new.
I don't have that much left to talk about the Cubs after. We're gonna take a shot.
We?
No, well, you.
Fuck.
All right. So what Joe brought up with Suzuki is a good point. Everyone knows Suzuki went on an absolute tear to end the season, and I play fantasy baseball. So does Brandon. We know the stats, and big baseball fans, so we know already. But just to put this into perspective for you guys to understand, Seiya Suzuki was a top 15 fantasy baseball player for the last month and a half of the season. So, I mean, that's pretty fucking elite right there. His bat went absolutely insane after David Ross benched him. And I do give David Ross a positive for that. And it's a very good move by a manager to bench someone who's struggling, because, like I said, it gives them that competitive edge to do better. But that drop that Seiya Suzuki had, and I said it right after it happened, I kind of, and we just came off a sweep from the Colorado Rockies, so the Cubs had momentum going into the series with Atlanta. And Seiya Suzuki dropping that ball, I think, took out all the momentum in the entire season, which ultimately led to the Cubs not winning or not making the playoffs. So I don't blame Suzuki because he was such a important factor in the Cubs, but that definitely hurt.
It sucks, like one easy play that
something that innocent.
Yeah. That most average baseball players can catch. He messes up. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But, it happens.
For sure.
That just shows you it happens to the best of everyone.
But for sure, all that stuff hurts. It hurt very much to see that. But the Cubs missed the playoffs strictly because of terrible defense, injuries in the shaky bullpen, and the mismanagement of the bullpen and offensive lineup. So this is a big factor that plays into this on why they missed the playoffs. But moving on, I want to have a quick segment here, and it's not going to be long, I promise you guys, over the playoffs that started on Tuesday. For those who don't know how the playoff bracket kind of works, it changed over the course of the years. Pretty much, the old way was you had 2 wildcard spots. The top 2 wildcard spots fought in a 1-game series to play the divisional winner, the number 1 seed divisional winner. That's not the case anymore. The case right now is that the first wildcard seed versus the second in a 3-game series, right? The third wildcard versus the third divisional winner. So the Brewers, for this case, the Atlanta Braves has home field advantage throughout the playoffs. The Dodgers had a better record than the Brewers, so the Brewers are the third divisional winner. So that's why they're the third, and they versus the third wild card. The first and second divisional winners have bye weeks and wait until the wild card round is over with. And to finally get to why I put this jersey on is the Brewers today got swept by the Arizona Diamondbacks. And from the bottom of my heart, I can honestly say, fuck the Brewers fans and fuck the Milwaukee Brewers. I'm happy you guys got eliminated, and if you guys are watching this podcast, hop off our podcast. You're not allowed
the sixth biggest rivalry in baseball, I believe, is the Brewers and the Cubs. So the number one biggest rivalry in football is the Packers and the Bears.
Yeah.
So I mean, like Wisconsin and Illinois.
Yeah, there's just something about these teams, like
they don't mix good. So hey, man, we got to represent Chicago. So yeah.
That as soon as I saw that, I was very happy, and I will be celebrating tonight.
Dude, every single wild card matchup has been a sweep.
Yeah.
Every single one. The Phillies just swept the Marlins. The Arizona Diamondbacks just swept the Brewers.
Which means I actually put money today on Texas sweeping Tampa.
Swept.
I put money on Arizona sweeping Milwaukee, and
the Twins swept the Blue Jays. Every fucking series was
I actually won a decent amount of money for my prediction.
Oh.
So fuck the Brewers, fuck all you Wisconsin fans.
I would say anybody who's a baseball fan.
I'm wearing a shirt right here, FGB.
Yeah, we're not fans of Wisconsin here.
I would just say
Green Bay all the way.
Anyone who's gotten this far in the podcast, we've been doing this for a minute now.
A month.
Or even just this episode specifically. My opinion. Tune in to the Phillies Braves series that's coming up. That's the 5. That is going to be
quite to see. 100%.
That's going to be showtime.
And 100%. That's going to be prime time baseball series that you're not going to want to miss.
No, you're not.
There are so many superstars going ahead at that.
So
series.
who are the Dodgers going to play? Arizona?
Yes. Dodgers versus Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah.
That should be good too.
Yep.
That should
100%.
be good too.
I don't have that much left. This is coming to an end, but I just want to ask both you gentlemen here. Who are your predictions on winning the World Series this year? Out of all the teams in the playoffs, who do you think takes it all? Do you think it's the Phillies? Do you think it's the Atlanta Braves, the Dodgers, who of course won over 100 games? Do you think it's the Orioles, who won over 100 games because they're a very good team this year? Do you think it's Texas, Houston, who's always in it? What are you guys thinking?
Andrew, I think that's a great question. I mean, if I had a choice, I know this is probably an unpopular opinion, but I would say the Phillies. I mean, you got Kyle Schwarber that plays on the Phillies, which I love Kyle Schwarber because he's a former Cub. But I think the Diamondbacks made a huge comeback. I mean, they at the beginning of the year they were like crap. No one thought they were going to make or account to anything. They made a huge comeback, so it'd be kind of cool to see them.
And we did talk about Arizona, and we did specifically talk about the Arizona team with their pitching and their offense. And they do have some weapons on that team, so if I don't disagree with that.
I'm not either. I'm not crazy about baseball, but if I had to pick, I would probably say I guess the Phillies, just because of Kyle.
Can't go wrong with the Phillies.
Stick with it, man.
Cannot go wrong with the Phillies.
I think
that's a very good guess.
It is, Joe. I respect that. And honestly, that wasn't on my mind picking the Phillies, but I like that pick a lot, dude. I think first and foremost, in my opinion, the winner of the World Series winning team is going to come out of the National League. In my opinion. So I think if you want to go with the Phillies, they absolutely could. Man, I want to say the Braves. I mean, the Braves are the easy pick. You know what? But I agree with Joe. I'm going to be honest. I agree with Joe. I think if the easy pick is the Braves, but I think if anyone's going to surprise us this year, it's going to be the Phillies. They're going to get back. They were in there last year. They have that team chemistry. They're all playing well. Trey Turner's playing like Trey Turner. They have a good shot.
And my guess, I could not agree more with both you guys. And it's insane that we're all going with the Phillies.
And we didn't plan this
year, but we did not plan this at all. I'm very shocked. I think the Phillies, top to bottom, have ridiculous pitching. They have ridiculous offensive capabilities. With Bryce Harper, with Nicholas Castellanos, Kyle Schwarber, frickin' Trey Turner. It's JT Realmuto. The list just doesn't end. I think if the Phillies was in any other, the Phillies are just a very good team top to bottom. And the fact that they're a wild card team is kind of mind-boggling to me because I think they're better than majority of the teams in the MLB. I think it's going to be good, though. The Phillies are my vote. I think they're going to take it. Who do you guys think is going to be in the other spectrum?
Astros.
I agree.
Don't root against the Astros.
If history proves itself, it's
Don't root
to
against
not
the
root
Astros.
against the Astros. And Joe, I think
And
we
the
can
other
just
teams are
answer
young.
for you here. It's going to be the Astros for all three of us.
Yeah.
The other teams are young, man. Texas just advanced. They don't have the experience.
So
Hold on a minute. Baltimore, they don't have the experience.
they don't have the experience. Yes, I agree.
Who else, dude? The Twins.
The Twins, we
Twins
know
are
the
not
Twins are not
beating the fucking
serious. The
Astros.
Twins are not serious.
Astros, Phillies. Phillies win this year.
Yeah.
That's my bet.
I agree. And it's going to be another 2021 World Series rematch, so that should be interesting if it actually does happen.
Can you imagine the Stros win it all again?
Oh, I would be very, very upset. Very upset if that happens. But just to end the baseball thing, this is baseball related, but not like a serious baseball topic. The morning of Tuesday, I woke up and I thought to myself, you know, who's going to win the World Series? And I was truly thinking about who's going to win the World Series. And I walk up to my kitchen to pour myself a cup of coffee, right? And on the windowsill, guess what I saw? And I know you already know what I'm about to say. And it was actually kind of ridiculous. I saw a Blue Jay in Chicago.
Oh boy.
So I thought to myself, like, wow, if that's not a clear-cut sign from God that Toronto's taking the World Series this year, I don't know what is. So I thought the Blue Jays were going to win. Of course, they got swept by the Twins, who lost 19 straight playoff games dating back to 2004. Just like the Stanley Cup, you guys will not get the freaking World Series. World Series or Stanley Cup will never make it back to Canada because your teams are pathetic.
Let's keep it in America.
And let's
baby.
keep it in the United States for sure because the way Canada acts, they don't deserve that because their
I'm just
teams
saying,
suck.
It's America, man. Let's support American teams. You know?
Yeah,
That's
for
where,
sure.
That's
I have
where we
nothing
live.
against. I have nothing against Canada teams.
No,
it's just
yeah,
like
but-
a friendly competition between Canada.
Yeah,
So if you guys don't know,
we were born in America. We lived in America. Let's keep it in America.
Well, we're going back to hockey. A Canada team has not had or hosted the Stanley Cup in over 30 years. So it's
Let's keep it that way.
It's an ongoing joke nowadays between the United States and if you're living in Canada over, you know, the Stanley Cup and stuff. So let's just bring it to baseball as well and continue that on. But that's all I have for baseball. We already covered football, and for the first time,
I just got one question.
Yeah, sure.
It's a White Sox question for Brandon.
Yeah, interesting.
So Brandon, according to Barstool Sports, they say that the Chicago White Sox have resorted to dollar seats and free parking, and they're trying to bribe their fans. I just want to know, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, Joe, that's actually hilarious that you bring that up.
Hey,
It's true, though.
good
It's
question,
true. I
buddy.
know.
And it's funny because I actually saw that, and I never thought I'd be put on the spot to ask this question, but I love it, Joe. You know what? I'm not surprised at all, dude. And you know what? And I think I myself,
Dollar seats.
I myself am a glaring example of why that is even a thing. As believe me, I have my sources. I have people who will back me up on this. That I am a huge White Sox fan. I've invested in a huge chunk of my life with this team. I've had sleepless nights over how bad they've been, or you know, their performance in a single game. I will live and die by that. I love Hawk Harrelson, Steve Stone, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not surprised, Joe. I think at the end of the day, it's as simple as the White Sox haven't performed well enough to put asses in seats, and that's why they're trying to bribe their fan base to come to the game, because there's no interest in watching this team until they get better.
Absolutely.
That's it, dude. I'm not going to ramble. That's it.
Hey, well, not only are their professional team a joke.
It's hard to get to the stadium, man.
There was a case earlier this year where 2 people in guaranteed rate field was shot in the stadium. So not only does the team suck, it's not even safe to watch a game at the cell. Well, if you're from that era, it's a cell.
So they're just trying to get some kind of income.
But
we all like
think,
going to the games.
So I think it's actually kind of a good marketing scheme because, look, who goes to a ballpark and does not order a beer or does not order food? So the White Sox would already make money off of the beer and the food as it is.
Of course.
So I think it's not bad, you know. I think it's a good marketing scheme by whoever created that. But,
it's not. You know what's a good marketing scheme, buddy? A good marketing
putting
scheme.
a good team on the field.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, 100%. I was getting to that.
That's it. Put a good fucking team on the field, and your fans such as myself would gladly pay whatever the fuck it takes to have a great time at the ballpark. It's that simple. Like don't resort to being a shitty team and then trying to take the easy way out and selling dollar tickets.
Look.
I don't want to hear it.
Look, every team goes through rebuilds. Every team goes through rough patches. But no team has struggled mightily as much as the White Sox in recent memory. Like, seriously. I can honestly say, and I'm not just talking shit because I'm a Cubs fan, the White Sox are literally the laughing stock of Major League Baseball.
From an injury perspective, the White Sox have been plagued. They've always been fighting an uphill battle because of injuries, and it caught up to us. The rebuild window it's closed, and the reason it's closed is I think because of the injuries, because we never really were able to establish that rapport as a team, and that's it, man. I think what you just said is BS. I think there's worse teams than us. The White Sox have had some recent success, maybe not in the playoffs, but in the regular season we have. We're not the Oakland A's. We're not leaving our fucking city. We're not the Pittsburgh Pirates, right? We're not the Colorado Rockies. There are worse teams. There are worse teams that you could be a fan of than the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah. Chicago Bears.
That said, I'm not going to defend the Sox. It's miserable being a Sox fan. Like I said a couple pods ago, hopefully, the front office, they're doing some things. We're seeing what's going to happen with the future. But that's it for me, man. It's time for that second shot of Malört.
I was just gonna say, so Brandon's gonna take a second shot of Malört. We're gonna get into our prediction for the Commanders versus Bears, and after that, we're gonna get in the craft beer and we're gonna end this podcast.
Absolutely.
All right, second shot of Malört here. Brandon Nordley. Hey, let's give a round of applause to fucking Brandon here. Hey, man, so Brandon lost twice. Brandon's on a roll here. So not only did Brandon lose to the Cubs making the playoffs, he also lost to the prediction that the Bears and the Broncos game. So here is his second shot to losing to the Bears and Broncos game. Go for it, Brandon.
All right, cheers, gentlemen.
Hey, cheers. Nothing. I already drank enough beer here.
My puke comes through.
Good luck to you.
It'll be all right. Shot of Malört. That's right, man. So me and Brandon took a shot of Malört earlier today. Brandon just took his last final shot of Malört. So he is completely up to date with his Malört shots. So
nice shot, Brandon.
Good job, Brandon.
Thank you.
So now
how are you feeling?
Not good.
Not good.
So now we are going to get into if the Bears will beat the Commanders, which I really don't think they will. So here is my score prediction for the Bears versus the Commanders. I think the Commanders will win 24-21. The Bears lose. So I think the Commanders are a good team. They held the Eagles up, and they almost beat the Eagles in overtime. I mean, the Eagles beat them in overtime, but I think that the Commanders are a team to reckon with. I really don't think that the Bears can beat them.
My prediction is going to be the Washington Commanders on winning the game. I think it's going to be 28-17 Washington.
I'm sorry. Okay, 28-17 Washington. Joe, what was your score?
24-21. The Bears lose. Commanders win.
You guys heard my breakdown of.
You should go with a conservative number this week so you don't lose for a record.
So it doesn't matter if whoever wins, it's whoever has the furthest points away. That's whoever loses this prediction.
You guys heard about my Sam Howell spotlight?
Yes,
you did.
We heard
and
about
you were
it.
very high up.
Yeah.
Do you know what this means?
You're gonna go with the
I'm going with the Commanders 33.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Did I respect
to the
that?
Bears 16.
I mean, they scored 33 on the Eagles.
33
to 16. You heard it here from.
You heard it here first.
B.O.B. Big opinionated Brandon.
Big opinion. Brandon said 33-16 Washington.
33-16 Washington. That's
Absolutely.
a fair prediction.
We locked in all of our predictions.
So far, Brandon's been wrong the last 2 times.
Yeah, so he's going to go with 3 in a row next week.
I don't want
Andrew
another
was
shot
wrong.
on Malört.
Andrew was wrong the first time.
I was wrong the first episode, but it didn't count because we didn't have set in stone what was happening.
Yes.
So it didn't count.
It did
but
not count.
After the first episode, we, in concrete writing, well, not really concrete, we're just saying.
Oh, it's concrete because it's recorded and all you guys can see this.
It is recorded. This guy's lost the last 2 weeks and had to take a shot. So I hope, and I'm being very selfish when saying this, I hope next week I don't have to take a shot at Malört, and both of you have to take another one.
I think it's going to be close. Yeah. Both of our scores are somewhat close, except for Brandon's. But hey, we'll see. Maybe Brandon has the science down now to winning this prediction.
Yeah. So
I can't lose again.
Good luck to both of you gentlemen next week. It's going to be fun to tune in and see who has to take the shot. But I think moving on, we have one more segment we have to cover, and that's the
beer review.
The inevitable beer review.
Yes.
As you guys probably noticed if you watch the podcast, I think it's obvious Actually, I'll just save it for these guys to talk about.
Sure.
So I don't want to spoil the fun, really.
So we both drank beer from Three Floyds Brewing Company, which I think is a great brewing company. I mean, they're known for Gumball Head and Zombie Dust. Those are the 2 big beers they're known for. So today, what we drank, I drank was the Behemoth beer. It is a Three Floyds Brewing Company beer that is located in Munster, Indiana. It is a barrel-aged burley wine ale, 13.6% alcohol. So yeah, it has some alcohol in it. I'm kind of feeling it a little bit. So it's a good beer, though. It's okay. So let me read a little bit about the beer, the Three Floyds Munster beer. So the Behemoth, that's the name of the beer. This is according to Three Floyds Brewing Company. They took their American-style barley wine and aged it with Willett bourbon barrels for 12 to 16 months. This rounds up the intense hop character and complements of the natural vanilla, coconut, and bourbon notes extracted from the barrel-aged process. It's a good beer. It's okay. I mean, it's not like my top beer. If I had to grade it on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, I would grade it a 5 out of 10. So this is for the Behemoth beer.
All right. I also had that beer as well, and it just wasn't good. I was not a fan of it, and I'm gonna go with a whopping 3 out of 10.
So better than the jalapeno.
I forgot what I gave.
You gave the jalapeno a 2 out of 10.
Yes, it was better than the other beer.
You gave the jalapeno 2.
The jalapeno ale.
Yeah. No, for sure it was better. You know, and I said this earlier, this one tasted like a Guinness on steroids. I'm not a big fan of stouts as it is, or a Guinness, so it's going to be lower.
I just want to make sure that we're reviewing the same beer, right?
We're
like
reviewing,
Joe's beer.
Joe's beer.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's
0.
Zero?
Zero?
Oh,
Zero.
man.
Wow.
That thing was absolutely disgusting.
It's a barrel-aged barley wine ale.
Not
Brandon's giving
only
it a 0.
It was also very
Listen,
expensive.
it looked disgusting.
Yeah.
It tasted disgusting.
Yeah.
It was too like thick of a beer. It didn't have a good taste. These are my opinions, of course. 0 out of 10. I can't imagine it gets worse than that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
so Brandon's least
sorry to
favorite
say,
beer.
I'm sorry to say.
You know, it definitely was not good. That's for sure. 0 out
horrible.
of 10. That's
Look,
insane. Though.
Look, this is a 13. What was the percentage?
13.3, I think.
13.6 alcohol
That's the percentage alcohol that you expect out of a wine, right? Like, I don't want my beer, and this is, again, just me, I don't want my beers to be at the percentage where a red wine's going to be. If I drink a beer, I want it to be drinkable, right?
Yeah,
so
barley wine. I mean, it's
0.
Yeah. Like I said, so I gave it a 5. Andrew gave it a 3. Brandon gave it a 0. The beer for 4 beers, 12 ounce 4 beers, it's almost $30. It was like 27 something at Binny's. That's where we.
This guy gave it a 0%. That's
yeah.
Zero,
So
not 0.
I think I called it a
quite frankly, dude, I think we need to write down that rating over this beer because I don't think it could get any worse.
So Brandon's saying his top beer, whatever his top beer is a 10. The worst beer he's ever had is 0. Which is the Behemoth
he just
barley.
said this is the worst beer he's ever drank in his entire life. And this guy is pushing 30, dude.
So the Behemoth barrel-aged barley wine is Brandon's worst beer that he's ever. I think I called it a burley wine. Barley is what I meant to say. Wine, beer. It's his
Joe,
worst
we got to
beer
bring
ever.
Hacker Shore back on this.
So Hacker Shore is one of my favorite.
Hacker Shore is a very good beer.
So we're reviewing all kinds of beers. Beers that we drink so you don't have to. And that was a beer that I would not recommend it. I mean, if you like stouts and you're a big stout guy, you like a beer where you could drink 2 of them and get messed up. As you can see, I already drank 1 of them and I'm already messed up on it. I would not recommend it.
Don't do it.
It's not a good sipping beer. It's a beer that, like, if you want to, drink 1 or 2 of them and get really drunk, go and pass out, that's your beer.
Just go drink whiskey on the rocks at that point. You know
at that point.
At that point, just go have a hard liquor on the rocks and you'll be happier. Believe me.
It's not a good beer. But we'll go to the next one.
Well, okay. I'll start off.
Yeah. You already reviewed it, right? The Behemoth. Okay, so go to the next one.
All right, so Brandon, if you could please show the artwork over this can.
Then show the artwork.
So I'll actually show the artwork for.
So the Behemoth beer.
Joe's beer first.
Yeah, it was actually really cool. It's like a guy wearing a skeleton helmet mask thing. But there you go. Brandon's showing it right now. Very, very cool artwork. It's made by 3 Floyds. 3 Floyds is a good brewing company. Like I said, they make Zombie Dust and they make a Gumball Head, which are 2 really good, reputable beers. Yeah. So, I mean, this is one beer and these are both beers that we are drinking that are made by 3 Floyds Brewing Company.
So this next beer is Slaposaurus. I add the Rex at the end because you might as well. So Slaposaurus Rex. It's a double IPA. So, not many people I feel like are fans of IPA to begin with. This is a double IPA, a double whammy. So if you don't like IPAs, you're not going to like this one. 9.9% alcohol by volume. So it's a stronger beer. So you're not going to be able to drink that many of these beers before passing out, that's for sure. This is also by 3 Floyds Brewing Company, so a reputable, brewing company. It is a good brand, but I wasn't that big on it. I really like the fan art or the artwork on the can is ultimately why I bought it, but I'm not a fan of IPAs that much, so the score that I gave it is an honest 5 out of 10. I thought it could have been worse. A 5 out of 10 I think is very fair for someone who is not that big on IPAs to begin with. What is your guys' opinion?
Yeah, I think the Slaposaurus, I think it had cool artwork.
Slaposaurus Rex.
Slaposaurus Rex, yes. I think it had cool artwork. I think, like, if you guys have known from my previous episodes that I'm not a big fan of IPAs, the Indian Pale Ales. They always have cool artwork. Like I said before on this podcast even, that Three Floyds Brewing Company makes very good like beer with the zombie dust and the gumball head. Two of my like probably top 10 favorite beers, I would say, but this is not one of them. It's very hoppy. I mean, hey man, if you like hoppy beers, if hoppy's like your thing, then this is one of the beer. The Slaposaurus by Three Floyds.
Slaposaurus Rex, bro.
Slaposaurus Rex is one of your beers. You probably would like it. If I had to rate it on a scale 1 to 10, 10 being my favorite beer, which is Allagash White, 1 being my least favorite beer, which is Bud Light, I would give it a 4 out of 10 if I had to pick. So, like I said, it's a double IPA, so it's even has twice as many hoppiness as the other IPAs. I'm just not a fan. It's not my beer. Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, good transition. So if I'm just gonna say this, if we're ranking the beer off of like the aesthetic of it, I think your beer was fucking awesome, Joe. But I'm not ranking it off aesthetics. Obviously, I'm cracking a joke, but I didn't like this beer either. I thought it was absolutely disgusting. I'm not gonna say it's a 0, but actually I wouldn't even put it close to 0 necessarily. It was drinkable. Didn't enjoy it. Very bitter. Very hoppy, as Joe said. You know, I think this one will land at about a 3. And I think I'm comfortable with that rating. I think it was very hoppy, not too easy to get down, not my cup of tea. Still very strong, and 9.9 is still very strong for a beer. Go get yourselves a PBR. Go get yourselves a Labatt, and just go get yourselves a Corona or Modelo, and go have a good time. Don't fucking bother with this shit, okay? And you know what? I'm not the one who bought these beers this week. Actually, in fact, Andrew and Joe have been responsible for buying the beers for most of these podcasts. Come on, guys. Let's get some good beers next time, huh?
Hey, he wanted to buy another unicorn beer, so...
How about this? If he wants a better beer, how about he goes to Benny's and he buys his own?
Why don't you guys let us know in
the
comments below.
So the reason I don't is because I usually get off work late. Yeah. I'm going to tell you what.
We're just joking around.
I know we are. We are. I'm going to go grab a fucking beer next week, and you guys are both, 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Just wait and see.
You know, just because you said that, it's going to be a terrible rating. So. I'm just kidding. We'll give it an honest opinion. But I think that's all she wrote. And we are Chicago Brewed Sports. As always, thank you for tuning in to our podcast. Remember to subscribe, like, and share if possible, and spread the news for us.
And most importantly, comment below. We love your comments.
Yeah, let us know what beer you want us to drink next.
We 100% want your feedback on all of the podcasts that we do, whether it's beer-related, sports-related, suggestions on how we can improve, etc. So your feedback is well valued, and we will go through it, and we will respond accordingly.
And just remember that in the description below, we will timestamp all the Chicago sports that we have talked about in below. So if you don't want to hear about the Cubs, you want to hear about the Blackhawks, the Bears, whatever, you could go in the description below and click what team you want to listen to.
And as always, for the Milwaukee Brewers fans listening tonight, I hope you guys sleep well, because I will sleep well tonight knowing
Chicago's coming
were
for you,
eliminated, and Chicago next year is coming for that ass.
And again, we are the Chicago Sports Podcast. We are called the Chicago Brewed Sports, and this is for the fans, by the fans.
Hey, Tony, glad you can join us. So we're going to talk about the Blackhawks now. This is Tony DiCostanzo. I would say that Tony is probably one of the best guys I know about hockey questions. If I have a question about hockey, Tony's the guy I'm calling.
Welcome
Tony's
to the
a
guy,
Tony.
Tony.
So Tony,
welcome
thanks
to the
for
podcast.
joining Chicago Brewed Sports.
Thanks for having me.
No pressure, Tony, but first guest on the pod, man.
So Tony is
First guest.
Yeah.
First guest.
I'm
ever.
the hockey insider now, huh?
You're in the,
You guys are gonna probably be looking for more hockey insiders after you're done with me. But well, I mean, I think I got a pretty good idea of what's going on in Chicago as far as hockey goes. I think I mean, I've been watching this league probably since the day I could, the day I had eyes. So, and I play myself. I'm really into this game. I love hockey. So, I mean, I'm just happy to talk about it with you fellas.
absolutely.
Sounds like you're the guy,
Thanks
man.
again for being here,
Yeah,
dude.
thank you.
Yeah, I remember asking Tony the question that, like, hey Tony, would you give up being a firefighter paramedic? Like myself, Tony's also a firefighter paramedic, probably one of the best paramedics I know, to be honest. But I asked him, I'm like, hey, if the Ice Hawks called you up right now and said, hey, we want you on our team, you'll start this day, would you do it and give up being a firefighter? Tony said yes. So
I mean, so as people know, us firemen, we love our job, and I do love my job. But my God, that I would play on a minor league team.
Oh yeah, I mean,
1,000. I'd play lower than the AHL if to be honest with you. Just travel the world, get to play a game for a living. That just is like that's the ideal situation, if you ask me. I mean, these guys have it all.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in shape, you know.
you could go back and apply for another department.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. You kind of that, right.
all right, so
Yeah.
let's get into the Blackhawks. I know they started the preseason game. They got Connor Bedard, which he's looking like a pretty high-end prospect. What do you got for us, Tony?
Yeah, so I can start off by saying that I was actually at the game last night.
Oh,
So that's actually a good thing.
Nice.
I was there with my family. I got to see Connor Bedard in the flesh for the first time. And honestly, it was a pretty good game. I know preseason's always a little choppy, so these guys obviously are not throwing out their top rosters every night. You know, they're resting their players, they're making sure no one gets hurt. They're not really playing 100% either. You got to kind of take that into account. But I mean, from what I saw yesterday, especially with, I mean, some of our top guys not on the bench. I mean, they look pretty good. I know Detroit's kind of in the same rebuilding stage as the Blackhawks are at this point. I think. I mean, they got some hot players too, but it was an excellent game, if you ask me. I mean, Bedard. I got to see Bedard score his first goal in the United Center, given it was a empty net goal, but you can kind of see the look on his face when he scored that.
I can't
Well,
believe he's 18. That's crazy.
The goal's a goal.
Yeah. He almost looked a little disappointed. It was kind of
I know.
funny,
I was
honestly.
gonna say, saw the highlights on that. He didn't change his expression at all after he scored.
Not even a smile from the
Even a
kid.
smile,
It's just like
That's good though. It shows that he's got intensity.
I mean, so I guess to throw in, we first arrived to the arena, and it was me and my father. We went to the Blackhawks store, and the first thing you see when you walk in is a shelf with these shirts that say "I like hockey" on it. I don't know if you guys saw the interview that he had a few days ago, saying he was out there for the first preseason game. There was an overtime game, and he was out there for like the entire overtime. And the reporter asked him, like, you were kind of avoiding eye contact with the bench the whole time, so you didn't have to get off the ice. And his response was, well, yeah, I like hockey. So, I mean, so they literally made T-shirts. It was the first thing. My dad bought an "I like hockey" T-shirt as soon as we walked into the stadium. It was hilarious.
Hey, so Tony, sorry, I do have a
good.
question for you, buddy. We're on the topic of Connor Bedard. I just want to get this question out of the way. How big of an impact does like a Bedard type player have on a hockey team? Like,
so, I mean, it's kind of all up to interpretation because we haven't actually seen him play an NHL game, right? We haven't actually seen him in the league.
Very well, yeah.
I mean, the only comparison you can really have him to is Connor McDavid, who, I mean, if you look at stats and what these guys did prior to the NHL, Connor Bedard has basically beaten a lot of McDavid's points and a lot of his goals and all of his statistics. Connor Bedard kind of tops him in almost all of it, which is pretty astronomical.
No,
so that's why we're so excited. But I mean, this kid's also he's 18 years old. You know, I don't expect him to go scoring 120 points this season. He's a rookie, and you could almost tell. I mean, when I was there watching him, it's like you can tell this guy's new to the league. He's with big boys now. I mean, he was playing with kids his own age, and he was dominating. But you know, you get to, the NHL is a whole different animal. You know, and I am very optimistic. I think that he's going to do great. I have him over 70 points this season. I mean, I got him probably around 35 goals. I'd love to see him hit the 40s. Obviously, his ceiling's really high, but he's got to grow up a little more. He's got to really just, I mean, he's got to grow into the league.
So, Tony, how do you think he would handle being compared to Connor McDavid as a young 18-year-old kid?
I feel like he's been getting compared to Connor McDavid for at least the past 2-3 years.
To be compared to Connor McDavid, I don't think people really understand how good Connor McDavid is.
I feel like if you're drafted number 1 overall, you know you have big shoes to fill. You know that comes with big expectation.
Yeah, no, definitely.
No matter who you're getting compared to, he knows what his expectations are.
Yeah.
And 1,000%. Yeah. I mean, so he knows that he's going to go to the Blackhawks, and this team is going to build a team around him. Yep. He is the guy. You know, there's no captain this year. The management and the coach decided that they were going to award a captain spot, so they have 4 alternates. But I think depending on how Connor does and if he continue how he acts, he probably will get the captain next year, depending. I mean, it all depends, but that's just kind of like the path that is paid for him, and all he has to do is take it. I mean, he's obviously super skilled and amazing, but I mean, it's like you said, very, very big shoes to fill for the young kid, and I hope it works out. I mean, if you watch him play, it's pretty exciting.
So does Chicago, man. So does Chicago.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah. So I guess one other question that I had written down, Tony, what do the Hawks need to do to right the ship? What are we missing as a team in this rebuild?
I mean, I think that we're off to a good start. I think that once we got the first pick, I think the general manager, Kyle Davidson, has done a pretty good job of kind of putting a team together that will compete, considering we have this generational player. I think defense will probably be a struggle for us, as well as goaltending. I mean, I'm a big proponent of, if you want to get deep in the playoffs, you need to have a rock solid goaltender. And I mean, the Hawks had that with Crawford for how many years? You know, I mean, some people hate the guy, but I thought he was amazing. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I straight up think he, you know, one of the most. I mean, you always trusted him in net. I think right now, I mean, on our roster, they got Peter Mrazek, who's kind of a veteran in this league, and they got Soderblom and Stauber, who are both. I haven't seen much NHL time. I think Soderblom's seen a few games. Stauber, I don't even know if he has or not. I could be wrong, but I mean, they you know, people have high hopes for these goalies, but I think that, you know, one of these guys needs to show up, essentially, because like I said, if you want to go deep into a playoff run, you need some good goaltending. And then as far as our defense goes, you got 2 guys, Seth Jones and Connor Murphy, who are kind of been on the team for a while. Seth Jones is on this massive contract, so it's big expectations for him. I think that those 2 guys for sure need to step up and almost be like the captains of this team. Especially, you know, if you've seen Seth Jones lately, I just feel like he struggles with the puck. This guy's supposed to be a puck carrier. He's supposed to be, you know, basically the puck is supposed to be on a stick the whole game, and he's supposed to be quarterbacking everything. But he sometimes seems like he struggles, and that's probably personal opinion. I think he's a good player, but he's just had a struggle lately. I don't know what it is with him. I mean, before he played on the Blue Jackets before the Blackhawks, and he looked incredible on that team. As soon as he got to Chicago, though, it just seems like he hasn't been doing very well. And a lot of people have kind of noticed. I mean, you'll see the stats may, say I'm not so much correct. I mean, Seth Jones will always put up big minutes. He'll play most of the game. There's just a lot of he'll have a lot of giveaways though. And then Connor Murphy's not really racking up points, but Connor Murphy's racking up a lot of blocks. So there's good and bad with all these guys, but I mean, those two guys for sure need to step up. Thankfully, we do have some additions to our defense. There's a kid, Alex Vlasic, who is actually from Wilmette, Illinois.
Shout out.
And he's supposed to be a good prospect here. We got this kid Korchinski, who we drafted pretty high, and I like the way he plays. He's a big offensive defenseman. I think he'll actually produce a lot for us. And we even have this Wyatt Kaiser kid who I think the kid buzzes. He bangs, he buzzes. He's 21, and he's all over the ice. He's getting those battles along the walls. He's doing pretty good. So actually, there is some upside to our defense for sure. So I mean, to answer against, I'm getting long-winded here, but to answer your question, essentially, to take us to the promised land, I think a solid defense and goalie is always going to do it. And as of right now, it's looking up. But we'll see how it rolls down. But
It sounds like
sports and
a lot of young players.
So I was going to say,
oh yeah,
they have a lot of young players, but and Tony, you can speak on this. They have a couple veterans. I mean, how do you feel about a guy like his presence? A guy like Corey Penny. What is
Corey Perry?
Like a veteran presence like that. What do you think he does for these young players? And
yeah, I think. as you could probably figure out, I think this is exactly what Kyle Davidson was thinking of when he was thinking, I gotta, have all these young kids. I need to put some veteran presence in the locker room. And I think Corey Perry, initially, I didn't really like it. Corey Perry's that guy that you hate,
right.
As an NHL fan. But if he's on your team, you're really, really happy. So he's 38 years old. He's been in the league forever, and he has had an amazing career. I think that it was pretty obvious move for Kyle Davidson to get a guy like him in the locker room because, you can't just let these 18-year-olds run rampant. These guys are 18 to 23 years old. They need a veteran presence of some sort. They need some sort of guys to manage them, to help them navigate NHL life, even, to tell them what restaurants to go to, how to not get in trouble, get home by curfew, all that kind of stuff, on the road, all that kind of interesting stuff. You need these older guys to help. And I think the Kyle Davidson pulling in Corey Perry as well as Nick Foligno and even Taylor Hall too. That's great. And then just to touch on Taylor Hall, because I'm super excited about Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall was a first overall draft pick in 2010. First overall. So now we have two first overalls playing basically together. He was league MVP not too long ago. He scored the most points. And Taylor Hall has always been a pretty elite player. And I feel like we got him for a great price. And that's really what started to convince me that this team will probably be pretty successful in these coming years.
That's awesome, man.
That's awesome.
So you're saying there's some light still shining in Chicago sports, at least for the Blackhawks.
I keep saying, I know you boys are doing Chicago sports, right? And I feel like lately it's been brutal to be a Chicago sports fan. It's been rough. So I'm saying this, especially Connor Bedard and these guys on the Blackhawks, they kind of have the weight of the city on their shoulders right now because it's there's not a lot of upside.
What's funny about it too, guys, is all over wherever you look, you can look at social media, wherever you want to look. Chicago sports right now is a joke. You know this. We talk about it every week, but it's funny because you always see at the end of the tunnel, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's always Connor Bedard and the Blackhawks. Everyone, there's so much weight on their shoulders, man. And
well, good. I hope they
looking
do
forward to
good,
getting
man.
into it.
Represent the city.
Well, that pressure as a young kid, I'm sure will, help him grow into a superstar.
Well, I think I say Connor Bedard because, like Tony said, he is going to be the face of this team.
Yeah.
Like that's where it's projected, and I think they are going to build around him. But at the end of the day, it's a team sport. We all realize that at the end of the day, it's the Blackhawks.
Yeah, like he's the new Patrick
and we're
Kane.
just looking to see progression with the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for. Tony, I have a question for you, dude.
Sure thing.
It's a very, it's a subjective question. It's just kind of a fun one. It actually doesn't relate specifically to the Blackhawks either. But in terms of like, I don't know, I'm a big statistics guy. I look into counting stats pretty deeply, and counting stats for defensemen, right? So when you're trying to evaluate a defenseman on his ability, to play hockey and just his impact on the league and on the team, what is your go-to counting stat that you look for to say, hey, this guy is a legitimate talent in this league, or he's replaceable talent? Do you just look at a statistic like maybe a blocked shot, like his blocked shot total at the end of the year? Do you just simply look at like overall points at the end of the season, maybe just hits? Do you kind of look at all of those stats kind of jumbled up? From your expertise, what do you kind of look at for that?
So, I mean, that's a good question. I don't really think I can give you, I guess, the answer you're looking for, because I think, and this is truly what I believe as far as hockey goes, and that's why I think it's such a great sport. Hockey is a full team game. I mean, there's weak links of a team, and I think that every team needs to kind of like put in their part. And there's obviously certain skills that defensemen particularly have that are maybe better than others. There is like more offensive defensemen. There's guys that are great on the power play. They're good along the blue line, right? They keep pucks in the zone. They have great shots. They have good side to side movement, and they can score. They can pass, and they could be that offensive guy on the defensive end. And then there's guys that are stay-at-home defensemen. There's guys that they are more conservative. Those are the guys blocking shots. Those are the guys laying hits, and those guys are super valuable too. I mean, every team has one guy that blocks significantly more shots than the rest of the defensemen. It's pretty much across the board on most NHL teams. There will be one defenseman with way more block shots, and those guys are super valuable, and just as valuable as a defenseman that's putting up 90 points in a season. I mean, because you obviously coaches are putting in their players, like they're putting in their stay-at-home defenseman guys on the penalty kill. You're not going to put your skilled guys. I mean, you never but I mean, I know it's a forward, but Bedard, for instance, like you're not going to see Bedard on the penalty kill because he's a goal scorer. I mean, he's used for scoring goals. I mean, and he won't really be that effective. That's why you kind of need this well-rounded team. You need to kind of like exploit the good characteristics of each player, and to make sure that you can basically hit these other, any other team from any other angle, whether that's, not even letting them into your zone or scoring 6 goals a game. Like it's kind of all around. I guess the first thing I thought of when you said that, though, a stat I've kind of always followed, some people don't really like it. I think it's a good stat, is plus minus. I don't know if you guys know how plus minus works. It's basically if you're on the ice when your team scores, it's +1. And if you're on the ice when the other team scores, it's -1. And that stat will go, throughout the league. If you got a defenseman and really any player that, is at the end of the season like +30, like that's amazing. Like you have literally been on the ice significantly more for your team scoring than getting scored on, which is how you win hockey games, right? You score more goals than the other team. So, I mean, I like plus minus a lot. A lot of people think it's a really stupid stat. But I mean that could kind of be like a cheat answer to your question.
No, but I think
when the real explanation is kind of like you need everybody to do everything kind of thing.
Yeah.
No, you answered my question, Tony. I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, thanks, Tony.
Yeah, no problem.
Very big question for you, Tony. Not that difficult, really. With your expertise, I'm sure you'll be fine. Does Connor Bedard have enough help on this roster to be able to have him have a successful season? Like, for instance, Kurashev. Philip Kurashev. Probably butchering that name, but
Yeah, that's Kershaw.
he basically a 23-year-old forward. He averaged over 17 minutes last season, and he was in the league's top 6 most ineffective forwards in the league. Overall question, does Connor Bedard have the help, on this roster to have a great season for the Hawks?
That's a pretty good question. I mean, so as much as it's funny how he was pegged that, because you could also say that the Blackhawks were one of the most ineffective teams last year, period. So, I mean, they were near dead last to where we actually got the first overall pick, right? I mean, the thing is, Kurashev is a young player, right? And he has some upside to him. I think he has a decently high ceiling, some good potential. Do I think he's going to be like an elite forward or a top 6 player on a really, really good team? I mean, he could. I mean, I kind of see him more as a bottom 6 guy, maybe like a third line center. I mean, there's guys that I've been paying attention to more to play with Connor, other than guys like that. I mean, there's guys like, this is a guy I want to talk about. Andre Athanasiou. He is a 29-year-old. He came from a couple other teams. He played in Detroit. I think he for sure is a guy that he's gonna play with Connor a lot, and they're gonna and especially in those like high need situations where if the coach is like, we need to score right now, he's going to put Connor and Andres Athanasiou on the ice because these two guys are incredible players. Athanasiou did play on a team last year. I think he was our best player personally, but I mean, best player on like one of the worst teams in the league. It's kind of, it's a little redundant, but I think other guys to play with Connor, like kind of like Taylor Hall, maybe even Corey Perry. There's other young guys too. Lucas Reichel. I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Lucas Reichel. He, me just watching the past few games in the preseason has looked incredible. This kid, and he's a great winger. He's another young guy that can play with Connor. But I think that they're just gonna kind of keep Connor in that with their elite players and with their kind of full-time NHLers per se. With Taylor Hall and Nick Foligno and Corey Perry. You might get other guys like Kurashev. I honestly haven't even seen Kurashev that much in this preseason. I haven't seen him really play yet. He might be injured. I'm not really sure, but yeah. I mean, it's kind of pick of the litter as far as guys that are going to play with Connor. I mean, but I mean, I like Kurashev. I think that he was probably put in a really, really tough spot last year, given that he had no help whatsoever. And for him to be a top 6 guy at his age and what he's bringing to the table right now is kind of a pretty high expectation from something he probably could not do. I think if you give him a little more time to grow up a little bit, get him to develop, and get him with guys like Connor, guys like Connor will make everybody better, right? So I think he can do it. I mean, I think he could be fairly effective on this team, but he's gonna have to fight for some ice time at this point. I don't think he's, especially with the players we got now. I don't think Kurashev is be hitting those minutes that, like you said, that he was getting last year. But I think they just didn't have anyone else to put on the ice last year. To be completely honest with you,
17 minutes.
I mean, it's good. I mean, it's decent time for a forward, but it's they didn't have much else, which was a pretty bad situation.
Yeah, well, hopefully all that goes well for the Blackhawks.
Yeah.
Joe, do you have any questions?
Nope.
Tony, do you have anything else to say you want to add to the podcast?
So, I mean, what do you guys think based on what you heard? I mean, based on, I guess, what I said, like, I mean, are you on the wagon here with the Hawks, or are you guys, kind of
really
keeping expectations low, or?
So for me personally, I think you automatically have to keep expectations lower this season, just because it's a very young group. The Hawks were a dumpster fire last season. You can't expect too much out of the Hawks this season, but what you do want to see
Progression.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You want to see the young players
Yeah.
develop and be better than what they were last season. If we could honestly say that guys like Bedard and the other rookie core members did better than last season, in itself, it is a win, in my opinion.
Well, it sounds like they're already talking about like Connor Bedard is going to be an MVP this year, and like we haven't even seen this guy play in the NHL in real time, and they're already talking about that.
Well, yeah, that goes back.
That's what I'm saying. It's really promising.
That goes back to what
Blackhawks,
Tony said,
so.
that Bedard is being compared to Connor McDavid is ridiculous. I mean, he may have the talent, but McDavid is really that good of a player to where the comparison is almost ridiculous.
Do you think there's any chance that Connor Bedard could be a bust? There's no chance at all. Like he's going to be at least like average or above average.
I mean, the thought has been in the back of my head. I've been pushing it away. I really don't think he will. I think he'll be effective. I mean, that's the thing. If you're going to compare him to Connor McDavid, and it goes to a thing where if he doesn't perform as well as Connor McDavid, does that make him a bust?
No, of course.
I mean, I don't think so.
That would be
some people
unfair.
would say that. No, yeah, absolutely. I think some people probably would say that.
Yeah.
Be like, this kid's not scoring 100 points a season, so he must be a bust. I mean, I think that he'll be pretty good for a very long time, given that he just grows up a little bit.
I want to hear. So.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Tony. We're running out of time here. I just got notified.
Yeah. Sorry if I'm a bit long-winded.
No, that was great, man. Thank
Tony,
you. Thank you
for
everything,
so much
dude.
for all that. We
thanks
we really
for joining.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Tony,
thank you,
until
boys.
next time, man. We'll have you on again.
And we'll have you on next time too.
Thank you.
So thank you, Tony.
Yeah, I'll be watching every single game, so I'll be able to recap and kind of give my.
You're our guy, brother.
Thanks, Tony.
For sure, man.
All right,
Thanks
Tony.
for having me. Appreciate it.
Out.
Cheers.
Take care.
Yep.